Chapter 765. The spiritual state was in chaos, and the smell of blood filled the sky. Such a large-scale war had only happened in the ancient times. The scope of the war was unprecedented. From battle emperors to Earth realm cultivators, everyone was involved in this meat grinder. The battle between the dragon tribes was especially fierce, and the two sides were about to activate the sacred dragon pond array. In terms of the resources of the sacred dragon pond, the 7 tribes were superior to the other 3 tribes. However, the 7 tribes had to guard against the fake gods, and at least 2 of the sacred dragon ponds couldn't be used on the battlefield. Lin Chun had drained the energy from 2 of the sacred dragon ponds, so the 7 tribes also had 3 sacred dragon pond arrays. The war spread to the heavenly state, and the main battlefield was between the 2 states. The battle was fierce, and the mountains and rivers within hundreds of millions of kilometers were covered in blood and bones. The overall combat strength difference between the Spiritual State Alliance and the Fake God Alliance was more than double, and the Spiritual State Alliance was at an overwhelming disadvantage. If the Alliance wasn't united and the alchemists of the Danjo State didn't plan and make potions day and night before the war, the Fake God Alliance wouldn't have the time to adjust to the situation and would be in a state of disunity. Even so, the absolute difference in strength was still overwhelming the Spiritual State Alliance. Lin Chen's clones witnessed the fierce battle. Each of Lin Chen's clones tried their best to stall more than 50 top battle emperors, and all of them were at least 8th-level battle emperors. The battle was fierce, and it was hard to tell who would win. 1 against 50. The cooperation of masters was much more than 1+1. If Lin Chen didn't have more than 6 million points of intermediate metal elemental energy, his clones would have died several times. His gold calamity battle body's hardness was infinitely close to the peak of the 7th stage, and his silent step was extremely fast when he was in the ultimate moment. Only when Lin Chen's 4 clones acted did they barely manage to stabilize the situation. He was waiting for an opportunity. It wasn't the best time yet. He still had 5 uses of his 5-blow Thunderstruck sure kill skill. Either he didn't use it, or he had to use it to affect the overall situation. The overall situation included the battle between Lin Chen and the fake gods. The 2 fake gods of the Mo family and the Lei family tore apart Lin Chen's 9-level heavenly tribulations, but before they arrived at the spiritual state, they encountered an unexpected counterattack. Boom, 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 clang. The dark mist condensed like clouds and rain. It was mixed with the movement of thousands of lightning bolts and turned into tidal draconic chi. As it shot out wave after wave, it swallowed the stars and absorbed the moon. There were also giant trees swaying with golden flames that poured out golden flames, condensing into endless flames that shot into the sky. The profound light and sword chi were like a waterfall of swords that filled the sky. They hung upside down in the void and condensed into numerous sword waves that shattered the sky. At the same time, Ling Tian's giant energy sword slashed horizontally at the false god's holy light fists, blocking the false god's attacks again and again. Damn it! I didn't expect the spiritual state to have so many trump cards aside from the world-suppressing Saint Steel. The false god of the Mo family said calmly, "Don't worry, these things are limited. As long as we exhaust their energy, we can push them to the world-suppressing sacred steel." TSK. Suddenly, the boundless blue-gold luminous sacred hammer came crashing down. This was an attack from the world-suppressing sacred steel. Be careful! Just as the Lei family's pseudo-mythical being's voice faded, another energy finger jumped like a shooting star, tearing through the universe and decorating the space between the 2 of them. Bam! The horrifying attacks set off waves of energy, which were blocked by the Saint Aura barrier of the world-suppressing sacred steel and the branches and leaves of the red flame tree, protecting the spiritual state from harm. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With sparkling waves and Saint Aura, The only 3 remaining world-suppressing sacred steels of the spiritual state unleashed their saint aura and attacked at the same time from tens of thousands of kilometers away. The golden fist mark suppressed the world, and the dark green scythe divided the heaven and earth. The sharp scythe cut through the sky and slashed down. The 2 false gods' expressions changed slightly, since they had to take this attack seriously even though they were powerful. The last world-suppressing sacred steel, however, faintly glowed with a rainbow-colored, holy, and fairy-like figure. The Saint Realm cultivators had unparalleled fortune and could leave the continent to explore the vast starry sky. They were also able to resist the many dangers and energy turbulences in the starry sky. They were no longer limited to some dimensions and could even go to the legendary sacred boundary. Bright attack. The bright blue saber energy shot out dazzling saber energy that looked like 2 bright mirrors, swiftly slashing at the false god of the Jian family. Clang! When the saber and the sword collided, tens of thousands of shards of light exploded in the starry sky. The bright blue moon lost its spiritual essence, but the false god of the Jian family's saint's sword was also damaged. The longer the battle went on, the more Lin Chun realized why Bright Moon Mirror had become Li Chongqing's ultimate technique. Although this saber technique was only a high-grade purple-tier saber technique, it had extremely comprehensive abilities. It could attack and defend as one, and it was flawless. After forcing the Jian family's faux deity back with a single slash, Lin Chen's psyche was like a tsunami as it slammed into the massive Kunpeng's true body. At the moment it was pushed back, Lin Chen's body was bathed in blood. His silent step increased his speed as he punched the Han family's faux deity across space. 7 Ultimate Explosive Force. Billions of dragon-shaped energies pierced through the void and created a true dragon shadow that struck the Star River. With a grim expression, the false god of the Han family activated his Saint Aura Heavenly Shield. But in the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Activated Charge and Penetration Rune, consuming 8 million rune energy points. Boom. Bam. Bam. Lin Chen's 7 Ultimate Explosive Force was suddenly unleashed. Its power was increased by 5 times, and it also had a 25% penetrative power. It directly broke through the defense of the Han family false god and caused hundreds and thousands of dragon force explosions on his sacred body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 4 attribute light balls rolled out from the false god of the Han family. Lin Chun took the opportunity to grab them. They were all non-growth attribute light balls, but they were of extremely high quality. Obtained 46 million rune energy points, 3 million cultivation technique essence points, 38 million talent points, 50,000 blank attribute points. The attribute light balls dropped by the false god were of extremely high quality. Even he sucked in a breath of cold air. Blue light surged, and Lin Chen's injuries were partially healed. Consumed 20,000 talent points. Fatal Bloodlust has been successfully activated. Gain 30% healing effect from actual damage. Successfully triggered Innate Skill Combination. Host can now use Innate Skill Combination. Seeing this, he was wild with joy. It's finally here. Innate Skill Combination. His sovereign's descent was in cooldown. Lin Chun had been waiting for a long time for the activation of the Innate Skill Combination. Blood trickled down the corner of the false god of the Han family's mouth, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How come this kid's attack suddenly increased by 2 levels? Universe Thousand Sword. Rip. The sword energy that was as thin as gossamer shot up into the sky like a silkworm spitting out silk or a poisonous spider weaving a web. It instantly spread out and enveloped the space within tens of thousands of kilometers with Lin Chun as the center. Lin Chen's heart pounded. If this sword technique was used on the spiritual state, it would be enough to cut the Heavenly Song Academy into countless pieces. Swoosh. Lin Chen's figure flashed and disappeared like a flash of light. The gossamer sword energy that blotted out the sky missed him. He dodged my universe sword technique? Impossible. His movement technique hasn't reached this level yet. What kind of trick is this? The false god of the Hun family was stunned. His universe sword technique could seal the void. If he used his movement technique without permission, he would be cut into pieces of tofu by the sword energy. Host has activated innate skill combination, is super-dimensional teleportation, and teleported to the designated target. 5 forces in 1. The leg shadow slashed horizontally like a guillotine. The false god of the Hun family's pupils trembled in fear. This kid not only dodged the universe sword technique, but also approached him silently. Chapter 766. Kuan Peng accommodates the moon. At the critical moment, a beam of yellow sacred light shot out and tore apart the space around Lin Chen, causing his body to come to a halt. The Hun family's false god instantly retreated, dodging Lin Chen's ultimate attack that was a combination of 5 forces. Damn it, these old foxes are really hard to deal with. Lin Chen's heart sank. It was his first time encountering such an opponent who could even avoid the sneak attack of super-dimensional teleportation. However, from now on, it's time to decide the winner. Activating talent combination, Sovereign's Descent. Accumulating energy, 0. Lin Chen's eyes were sharp. This time, he wanted to surpass his previous stacking of the 4 talents and use an unprecedented attack to decide the winner. For this, he wanted to use the large number of War Emperors below to increase the energy of the Sovereign's Descent talent. The Saint Realm was definitely not the War Emperor realm. The energy required to double the power in the Saint Realm was tens of thousands of times more difficult than in the War Emperor realm. On the other side, the 3 false gods were floating in the air. They stared at Lin Chen with fear in their eyes. Lin Chen, who had used the enhanced version of the ultimate moment, God Slayer, made them feel a fatal threat. Let's go all out. If we don't pay a price, we won't be able to take this kid down. Forget it. This fake body can be created again in the future. Rip. A tearing sound was heard. Finally, the 3 false gods tore off their disguises. They no longer looked like they cared about the world and pitted the world. Instead, they showed their original bodies. The Hun family false god, Hun Yin, was a short and deformed old man. He was holding a walking stick and had a mouth full of yellow teeth. Centipede-like scars covered the left side of his face. The Jian family false god, Jian Chuanyi, was an old man with a broken holy sword. He was only 5 feet tall, with only 1 eye and a hideous sword scar. The Wang family false god, Wang Yiquang, was a sinister middle-aged man with Kuan Peng wings. Only half of his face was left, and the left side of his face was skeletal. It was extremely strange. This was their true bodies. The 3 of them were all the most ferocious criminals in the sacred boundary prison. They were not as handsome and majestic as they were described in the fabricated history. On the contrary, they were the complete opposite. Each and every one of them was filled with the appearance of a scoundrel, causing one to shudder in fear. What's wrong? Aren't you going to continue pretending to be gods? Lin Chen sneered in ridicule, but his heart became increasingly heavy. From now on, it was time for both sides to go all out. You glib brat, I'm sure the Saint Realm expert beside you has told you about our weaknesses. The 3 of them were calm and composed. The Hun family's fake divine soul Yin laughed with a smile, as if he could control the wind and clouds. Previously, the 3 of them had held back because they were heavily injured and needed to preserve a portion of their strength to protect their injured bodies. Otherwise, even someone as strong as Lin Chen would not have been able to fight with the 3 of them for so long. However, once they released all their strength, it meant that Lin Chen would have to face 3 experts at the early stage of the 3rd Heaven True Saint Realm and above. Fortunately, the attribute light balls dropped by them are extremely high, so I can still use them in battle. Other than the slow rune, I can still use the other runes and talents according to the situation. However, this is my only chance. Lin Chen had heard from the dean that the serious injuries of a Saint Realm expert were not trivial. Even if they suppressed their cultivation to suppress their injuries, it did not mean that their injuries were healed. If they released their strength in a heavily injured state, their bodies would be extremely weak. In other words, although they were at the early stage of the third heaven true Saint Realm, their resistance and vitality were far inferior to a complete third heaven true Saint Realm expert. This was Lin Chen's chance. He had to walk on the edge of a knife. One wrong step and he would lose. I know my own weaknesses better than you do. Today I will let you, a mortal, know how big the world is. Hun Yin laughed coldly. Come out, my heavenly odd crystal. Boom. Bang. The terrifying and fiendish aura was like the cold yellow springs in hell. The energy rippled and exploded, shattering the nearby stars into powder in an instant. Then, they turned into faint cold ice frost that floated in the air. Lin Chen retreated repeatedly with horror in his eyes. Through the King Eye twins, he saw a dark blue crystal that flickered like starlight in Hun Yin's body. When the energy of this dark blue crystal was combined with his saint energy, it was like adding wings to a tiger. It was like a breath of air that could erode everything in the world and extinguish all life. What is this? A saint artifact? No, it's more like some kind of powerful energy crystal. It seems like a saint artifact is more threatening. Lin Chen's pupils constricted. He used the silent step and retreated rapidly. Hun Yin raised his hand and laughed sinisterly. Heavenly freezing sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The gloomy and cold aura that was as cold as hell was like a torch dragon sweeping across the sky. Wherever it passed, it condensed into a river of gloomy and instantly blocked all of Lin Chen's escape routes. Lin Chen's left leg was covered with a layer of gloomy and cold aura. Lin Chen activated the Fire Calamity combat body with all his might and burst out with raging flames that could burn mountains and boil seas. The coldness went straight to the bone. It can even erode my 9th Calamity battle chi. What a terrifying power! Lin Chen's pupils trembled slightly. These old guys didn't make a move, but once they made a move, they were full of killing intent. They were very clear about their weaknesses. When they revealed their true strength, they even used their trump cards. This is an odd crystal. It's the strongest energy crystal that can only be born in the sacred boundary or high-level space planes. Combined with saint power, it's even more powerful. Brat from the mortal world, now you know the difference between us. If you resist us, you will definitely die. Hun Yin cackled madly, shocking Lin Chen. There was actually such a powerful treasure in the sacred boundary. The power of this odd crystal was enough to double the strength of a saint. The Wang family's fake god, Wang Yiquang, suddenly stepped on the void and flapped his Kuan-Pung wings, flying over like lightning. His Kuan-Pung wings were many times stronger than Lin Chen's purple phoenix wings. As he tore through the void and moved forward, his fist smashed down like a heavenly hammer, causing the wind and clouds to surge. Mirror of protection. Lin Chen quickly waved, azure bright moon, and his saber technique was like a curtain. He immediately entered a defensive state and reflected half of the opponent's attack power. Wang Yiquang had a refined saint body and the bloodline of the immemorial Kuan-Pung. He was the only one among the three who dared to fight Lin Chen head-on. Lin Chen clashed with Wang Yiquang and Jian Chuanye with a saber in his hand. With Wang Yiquang rampaging in front, Jian Chuanye's sneak attack from behind, and with the protection of the Soul odd crystal, Lin Chen was in a desperate situation. Damn it, are you the only ones with trump cards? I have one too. Lin Chen fought until his blood boiled. He allowed the cold aura of the heavenly odd crystal to corrode his body as he used his mind to activate the system. Activate the absolute life and death talent. Chi. Activating talent combination. Absolute life and death talent. An orange brilliance shot into the sky and crossed the galaxy. Lin Chen's surging green brilliance and red divine brilliance had an additional orange light lingering around him. His strong and majestic blood energy and battle chi cultivation burned together. Ka. The ice crystals condensed by the cold aura began to fall off Lin Chen's body. The edge of his pupils turned orange. Lin Chen's life began to count down. Chapter 767. Lin Chen activated the absolute life and death talent to choose a target, and it was Hun Yin. Gu what? Hun Yin let out a strange owl-like cry from his throat. Clang! The azure moon in Lin Chen's hand glowed even brighter. It was like a bright moon hanging in the starry sky. Due to the host activating the enhanced version of the God Slayer talent, the duration of the absolute life and death talent has been extended. Lin Chen activated the absolute life and death with his divine body. Although the increase in power was still calculated based on the original War Emperor realm cultivation, the duration had increased. Lin Chen's short hair burned with orange flames. With a saber in hand, his aura was domineering. His eyes were as sharp as the stars and the moon. On his silver robe, the ninth calamity battle aura surged like a sunset. Lin Chen was like a god descending to the mortal world. He started to break my heavenly Yin odd crystal. How is this possible? Hun Yin was shocked. Lin Chen held the saber with both hands. In an instant, it was as if he was possessed by a saber saint. His saber technique exploded. Attack mirror, attack moon. Guard mirror, speed moon. Swoosh, swoosh, bang, bang. The saber aura that swallowed the heavens and the earth was like a bright moon shuttling back and forth. It reflected the universe and bombarded Wang Yiquang and Jian Chuanyi. The three of them were shocked. Where did this kid get the energy to spare? F*CKU, fake god. Come on, don't stop. Those who invade the 9 states will be killed. With his vitality burning, Lin Chen was overflowing with madness. His hair was swaying like flames. His saber technique was like a wild saber in a chaotic world. One saber after another, each saber was more violent than the last. His dragon power was still growing. His mental strength was growing rapidly. His battle aura cultivation was rising to a higher level. The powerful 9th calamity battle body was emitting a brilliant holy aura. With over 100 million dragon power points, every strike of his was imbued with a domineering aura. Lin Chen turned into a dark light and slashed vertically at Jian Chuanye's head. He wanted to split heaven and earth. Speed moon. Activated charging and penetration rune, consumed 3 million points of rune energy. Sword of Eternity. Jian Chuanyi drew his sword, the tip of the sword shot out a rainbow. The sword seemed to be moving very slowly. However, he was able to shatter the space crystal wall into a vacuum with a single strike. Bang! The saber and sword collided, causing a massive wave to rise up. The saber energy was like a raging tide that wreaked havoc. As the sword light scattered, a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of Jian Chuanye's mouth. 2 attribute light balls dropped beside him. Damn, this brat's attacks are too strange. I can't predict when he will use this strange penetrating secret skill. Lin Chen did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he punched the other side of the void. As the Kuan Peng's wings trembled, the fist and the palm collided, and the 7 ultimate strength was performed continuously. Great Yin Ice Prison. Hun Yin attacked once more, and he struck out with a palm strike that enveloped Lin Chen's vast icy hell of baleful qi. The horror of the odd crystal once again invaded Lin Chen's body. He gritted his teeth and held on, his spiritual power erupting like a tidal wave. Annihilation. Boom! An azure spiritual light pillar crossed the starry sky, and the destructive spiritual annihilation energy shattered more than half of the great Yin Ice Prison. Hun Yin's expression changed slightly, and he cried out, "Spiritual attack secret manual? Together with the great Odd crystal, his great ice prison was enough to trap a first-level saint, but it was broken by Lin Chen so easily? Before the battle began, Lin Chen had already learned the annihilation technique to 100% proficiency. With his saint spiritual power, it was not an exaggeration to say that its power could destroy heaven and earth. Roar! The Kuan Pung roared, and Wang Yiquang also began to activate his bloodline transformation, berserk state. Jian Chuanya attacked aggressively, but Lin Chen was fearless and faced him head-on. Holding the saber in his right hand, he used the saber technique Bright Moon Mirror, and the bright mirror hung high. His left hand used 7 ultimate strength, and his dragon force was fierce and domineering, looking down on the world. The saint's spiritual power clashed crazily, and Lin Chen fought the 3 fake gods with all his might. The 3 of them had to be wary of Lin Chen's penetration, secret technique that could increase the power of his attacks, and they also had to pay attention to when they would unleash that terrifying spiritual attack. As a result, their strength was greatly restricted in the battle. If the 3 third heaven saint experts in perfect condition attacked Lin Chen together, he might not even be able to last 300 rounds. However, these 3 fake gods had unleashed their full strength and were heavily injured, so they had to be more careful. The life and death talent burned his life force in exchange for strength, making him stronger as he fought. Lin Chen nourished himself with battle, and every attribute light ball they dropped was very precious. It constantly became his battle capital, allowing him to use the ultimate return talent again and again. His battle aura was never depleted at all. His aura was vast and majestic, making him as firm as a rock in the midst of the fake gods' attacks. It was precisely because they felt Lin Chen's ultimate return talent that the 3 fake gods' expressions became more and more serious. This kid's saint power was endless and could be replenished instantly every time. It was too strange. If I were to obtain such a mysterious secret manual, in that instant, the 3 fake gods' eyes flashed with killing intent. They had seen too many things from Lin Chen that could threaten them. If they didn't kill this kid, they would never be able to live in peace. Still not enough, still not enough. My sun god talent can only last for 60 seconds. This isn't the best time yet. I have to persevere, persevere. Stars flashed chaotically, and after a few thousand rounds, Lin Chen's entire body was bathed in blood. His blade was like a dragon, and the dragon's might pierced through the heavens. His palms were clenched into fists, and his legs were whipped out. Lin Chen gritted his teeth as he was forced back time and time again. The azure moon in his hand trembled slightly, and the damaged spirituality continued to expand. Under the attacks of the 3 fake gods, even the enhanced God Slayer, life and death, and ultimate moment were no match for them. Lin Chen was being suppressed by them. His life force was depleting at an alarming rate, and an orange glow started to emerge from Lin Chen's body. His flesh and blood were rupturing, and his battle aura was surging. The world seemed to be completely still, and Lin Chen was only focused on the battle in front of him. His mind was being destroyed, his flesh was being torn apart, and his battle aura was being shattered. It seemed that every time he attacked, his opponent would come up with a more cunning and terrifying attack. It was as if endless despair was shrouding him. Powerlessness and exhaustion engulfed Lin Chen's entire body. On the other side, blood rained down on Longhu mountain range. The spiritual state alliance would definitely collapse after a long battle due to the absolute difference in combat power. Lying quietly on the cliff, Elder Yuan was on the verge of death, and he wanted to close his eyes. Whoosh! 4 Disha Realm students rushed to the edge of the cliff, helped Elder Yuan up, and stuffed a life-saving elixir into his mouth. Elder Yuan, the 4 of us won't let anything happen to you. The 4 of them shouted resolutely. Elder Yuan's eyes flickered. These kids are still fighting with all their might. How can an old man like me die so easily? Hold on a little longer. Elder Yuan watched as the students retreated at the edge of the mountain range. A large number of powerful Yuan venerates were attacking, and they were about to collapse. Despite his arms and legs being covered in blood, Elder Yuan shouted at the top of his lungs. Roar, students! Only we, the descendants, who are still alive, can decide the meaning of the deaths of the 100 sage ancestors. Only we can decide whether the path of the unyielding sages who defended the 9 states still has value. Roar, powerhouses! Onward, young geniuses! Rumble! Elder Yuan's roar as he burned his life force enlightened countless students as if they had comprehended the great Tao. That's right, only they could decide whether the deaths of the 100 sage ancestors still had meaning. If they lost here, everything from the beginning would be meaningless. The unfulfilled wishes of the sages and sages would be shouldered by them at this moment. They would decide and they would control. The living would inherit the will of the dead and continue to move forward. This was the only hope for history to continue. Advance, advance. For the 9 states, for the greater good, for the 100 sage ancestors, and for the sages who had died on this path, they had to win. If they didn't win now, then the sacrifice of the ancestors would be meaningless. Chapter 768. Countless students felt their blood boiling, and even their battle chi seemed to be ignited by a raging fire. The medicinal efficacy that they hadn't been able to refine in time surged into their bodies, and a large number of powerhouses broke through on the spot. With tears in their eyes, they angrily rushed toward the allied forces of the fake God Alliance without fear of death. The 4 prodigy students standing beside Elder Yuan, who were at the 9th level of the Earth realm, broke through to the Heaven Dipper realm on the spot. You old fart, you should have died when you should have died. An injured Yuan venerate discovered Elder Yuan, and seeing that he had affected the battle situation, he rushed over crazily. The 4 of them looked at each other and used all their battle chi to block the injured Yuan venerate rushing over. This was the first time they had reached the Heaven Dipper realm and flew in the air. The 4 of them used all their strength to grab onto the Yuan venerate and lock him in place. What do you want to do? The Yuan venerate panicked, but he found that he couldn't shake off the 4 Yus. The 4 of them looked at each other, and the battle chi in their bodies surged as they laughed in relief. We will be brothers in our next lives. Rumble! The battle chi exploded, and a 100-foot storm bloomed like a cloud, wreaking havoc in the sky. 4 young Heaven Dipper realm students actually self-destructed while holding a seriously injured Yuan venerate, perishing together with the enemy. These 4 young students were already at the Heaven Dipper realm before the age of 20. They were true prodigies with great prospects in the future, but they didn't even bat an eyelid when they sacrificed their lives here. Even though there were millions of Yuan venerates on the enemy's side, this was just an insignificant number. They still sacrificed their lives without hesitation. An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood, a loyal heart shines in the annals of history. Who cares if the world is chaotic and the rain of arrows is like a curtain? Who cares if the mountains and rivers are broken and heroes rise and fall? A crisp and beautiful female voice echoed across the spirit state. The sweet and light voice contained a soul-stirring and domineering aura. It shook people's hearts and shattered all despair. A beautiful woman in a colorful jade dress with ribbons fluttering like clouds stood in the sky above the 3rd boundary suppressing sacred steel of the spirit state and sang loudly. Partners, let's go. Sisters, let's sing. Let the dark clouds cover the sky, let the wind dance in the firmament. Don't be afraid of that magnificent army with thousands of men and horses, don't be alarmed by that 1,000 zhang tall wave. Breaking through an army of 1,000, shattering the giant waves. Since ancient times, who has not died? Leave a loyal heart to shine in the annals of history. Dispelling the clouds and gazing at the dawn, stepping on the blood and singing a legend. The song was so shocking that it seemed to have triggered the pride hidden in the deepest part of the hearts of the people of the spiritual state. The aura of breaking through the bottleneck of cultivation strength lingered in the sky. layers of colorful holy clouds rose into the void, bathing countless residents of the spiritual state in them. At this moment, more than 1,000,000 people were making breakthroughs in their cultivation. Their injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 100 sages have shown their might. We haven't lost yet. Let's charge over and fight these bastards to the death. The morale of the Spiritual State Alliance soared, and their cheers soared into the sky. Bai Ruoyan, who was standing on the giant door of the Holy Fireland, stared at the Rainbow Fairy. She shook her head and exclaimed, "What a powerful rhythm technique! It's really a saint's technique." The momentum of the Spiritual State Alliance instantly soared to the highest point. Now is the time. Lin Chen's 4 clones had a tacit understanding of each other. They changed the direction of their attacks and dashed toward the combat emperors at the top of the battlefield. System: activate the ultimate skill, 5 thunders. Activating the ultimate green level ultimate skill, 5 thunders. With the host's clones as the center, all enemies within a radius of 100,000 kilometers will be targeted and attacked. Lin Chen's clones activated the ultimate skill, 5 thunders, 4 times in a row. Boom! Bang! The horrifying 5-colored thundercloud instantly shrouded the combat emperors at the 4 different battlefields. All of them were 8th-level combat emperors and above, the top combat strength of the Fake God Alliance. Bai Ruoyan, who had a tacit understanding of each other, opened her hands swiftly and opened the giant door of the Holy Fireland abruptly. Swoosh! 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 In the 4 battlefields, the bodies of the Spiritual State Alliance's experts were filled with dazzling white flames. They turned into a stream of light and were forcefully pulled into the giant door of the Holy Fireland. All of them were teleported into the Holy Fireland. This was what Lin Chen and Bai Ruoyan had agreed on earlier. It was not an impromptu decision. When he activated the ultimate skill, Bai Ruoyan pulled all the combat emperors into the Holy Fireland. Almost no ordinary person could get close to the battle between the top combat emperors, not even the low-level combat emperors. As long as the top combat emperors retreated quickly, they would not be afraid of accidentally hurting their allies. Lin Chen wanted to detonate the top combat strength of his opponents in one breath. The 5-colored thundercloud with a destructive aura lingered above the heads of the 8th-level combat emperors. Their pupils shrunk as they finally realized the severity of the situation. However, they did not have the chance to escape. Whoosh! Bang! 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 The earth-shattering 5-colored thundercloud descended like a lightning dragon and struck all the top combat emperors. There were a total of 400 people above 8th-level combat emperors in the 4 battlefields. There were more than 100 9th-level combat emperors. These were the top powerhouses of 3/4 of the forces in 9 states and half of the forces in the Firmament Tower. This was definitely a force that could influence the battle between the middle and the top. Now, all of them were hit by Lin Chen's ultimate skill, the 5-blow thunderstruck. The terrifying thunder shook the area thousands of miles away. When it reached the periphery where the Yuan Venerables and Heavenly Strength realms were fighting, the powerhouses of the Fake God Alliance gasped. This momentum was too terrifying. It was the powerful thunder that had happened at the headquarters that day. In a war, morale was the key. It could even decide the direction of the battle. The rhythmic sorcery of the boundary-suppressing sacred monument had awakened everyone's strongest fighting spirit and healed the injuries of countless people in the spiritual state. On the other hand, the people of the Fake God Alliance had just witnessed the 5-blow thunderstruck, and their morale had plummeted. Because of this, the Spiritual State Alliance instantly gained the upper hand and counterattacked. Obtained 400,000 rune energy points, 500,000 heavenly path points, 400 blank attribute points, 300,000 talent points. A large number of attribute light balls kept dropping. However, because of the Godslayer talent, only a small number of non-growth attribute light balls were dropped. However, 400 top-notch combat emperors, no matter how small the number was still a huge number. This wave of 5-blow thunderstruck not only increased Lin Chen's attribute points but also played a key role in another of his trump cards. Talent combination, Sovereign's Descent talent energy points, 500,000 points, 890,000 points, 109 million points, 2 million points, 4, 9 million points, 6 million points, 10, 5 million points, 23 million points. The accumulated energy of Sovereign's Descent had entered an unprecedented state of frenzy. Damn it! How many times can this kid use such weird attacks? Damn boundary-suppressing sacred monument, break it! You're just some incomplete wills and techniques left behind by low-level Saint Realm expert. I'm not afraid of your true bodies, so why would I be afraid of you? The two fake gods of the Mo family and the Lei family were exasperated after witnessing this scene. They had planned to use this group of top combat emperors to break into the inner circle and destroy one of the boundary-suppressing sacred monuments, but they didn't expect that Lin Chen would wipe them out. Hurry up! After a few more rounds, the things left by the ancient saints will disappear. The two fake gods sped up their attack. The Heavenly Song Academy was about to be destroyed. After taking turns to destroy the boundary-suppressing sacred monuments, they were about to run out of energy. Suddenly, a warm ray of sunlight shone on the land of the spiritual state. Today's sun was exceptionally bright. Chapter 769. This kid can fight the three of them at the same time. Even the three old guys who released their true forms couldn't take him down. The false god of the dragon family, who was fighting against the Dean, rolled his huge dragon eyes from time to time. When he looked at the other side of the starry sky, he could not hide the shock in his eyes. How old was this kid? They had spent millions of years to reach this level. This kid was so young. If he had the support of the top forces in the sacred boundary, he would be an overlord in all the worlds. Ha! Long Di Sha, you must be worried. With this kid in the 9 states, he will be your eternal nightmare. Although the Dean's life was hanging by a thread, his aura in the battle was as magnificent as the sun, and his laughter was vigorous. Lin Chen's performance was beyond his expectations. Humph! Look behind you. Let's see if you can still laugh. The fake god of the Long family swung his dragon tail and swept the starry sky. Each of his dragon scales was covered with flowing dragon breath. The Dean forced himself to operate the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower and was pushed back more than 1,000 miles. Looking behind him, the Dean's face turned grim again. The two fake gods of the Mo family and the Lei family also showed their true forms and tried to break the defense circle of the spiritual state regardless of their injuries. The last trump card of the ancient families was about to disappear. The light of the three worlds suppressing Saint Steels also dimmed as they approached their limits. Oh no! These guys don't even bother to disguise themselves. They are going to break into the spiritual state. Gritting his teeth, the Dean was about to use the last of his saint bloodline energy when a domineering presence rose up like a dragon. The holy light was so magnificent that it looked like a bridge of clouds. Standing on the bridge of clouds was a man in a green robe. With a sword in his hand, he attacked the two fake gods with a dazzling sword light. It's him? The Dean was overjoyed. The newcomer was the Tower Master of the Firmament Tower. You are just a second-level saint. Get out of my way. The fake god of the Mo family waved the heavenly secret umbrella in his hand. Tens of thousands of holy lights gushed out like clouds and formed a big colorful net. The sharp sword energy was instantly sucked into the net and turned into nothingness. The Tower Master looked grim. Since he had stepped out, he wouldn't back down. In fact, he had been hesitating all this time. It was only when he saw Lin Chen take on 3 opponents by himself that he felt a glimmer of hope and made a strong move. Not long after he left the Firmament Tower, the demons in the demon eye of the Firmament Tower began to riot. Now, the remaining half of the Combat Emperor's forces in the Firmament Tower, as well as all the forces in the Firmament Tower, were trying to stop the demons from rioting. Everything was on Lin Chen. Their disadvantage still hadn't changed. The Tower Master alone was unable to stop the two false gods who had revealed their true forms. After activating the 5-blow Thunderstruck 4 times at the same time, the energy accumulation of the Sovereign's Descent talent skyrocketed. This was Lin Chen's second trump card. Boom! Lin Chen was repelled once again. His entire body was shrouded in red mist and orange light. He gritted his teeth and charged forward again. If an ordinary expert were to fight against these Saint Realm beings who had lived for 1,000,000 years, their mind would have long since collapsed and they would have resigned themselves to their fate. Lin Chen was able to resist to this extent by himself. Just based on his mental fortitude, he had already surpassed countless people. This was definitely the most difficult battle Lin Chen had ever experienced. Every time he attacked the opponent's weakness, he would be met with an even more ferocious attack. It was as if he was a lone wolf facing the siege of 3 lions. Every time Lin Chen felt that he could not hold on any longer, he would suddenly remember the evil deeds left behind by these false gods in the land of the 9 prefectures. Those lives that were trampled on by these false gods, those people who were treated like animals. Lin Chen felt as if his throat was being burned by molten lava. He, Lin Chen, could not swallow this anger. "F***CKU false gods!" Lin Chen shouted angrily as he waved his saber and his fist shook the galaxy. At this moment, his mental fortitude became even more perfect. This saber move, Mirror Moon God, was earth-shattering. Rip! The saber light split the void and cut Wang Yiquang's Kuan Peng wings in half. Roar! Wang Yiquang roared in pain. His Kuan Peng bloodline was known for its speed. With his wings cut off, his combat power was severely reduced. Lin Chen took the opportunity to grab the 4 attribute light balls that he dropped. He stepped into the air and flashed. At the same time, he swept out a wave of mental energy to push Hun Yin back. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. At this moment, the accumulated energy of Sovereign's Descent in the system had reached 200 million points. It seems that the 5th 5-blow Thunderstruck plan to charge into the enemy's interior has also succeeded. Lin Chen was ecstatic. This was an unprecedented amount. It was an amount that could only be accumulated by killing a large number of war emperors. However, it might not be enough for a sage stage cultivator. There was a world of difference between increasing the attack power of a sage stage cultivator and increasing the attack power of a war emperor stage cultivator. Lin Chen saw that his vitality that was about to be exhausted had transformed into a holy body due to the enhancement of the strengthened version of the God Slayer talent. His body that could only withstand the activation of absolute life and death for 13 minutes had forcefully lasted for more than 2 hours. This kid is getting stronger and stronger as he fights. What a terrifying secret technique to fight at the cost of burning his vitality. Unfortunately, he's about to die. The 3 of us still have the foundation to contend with him. No matter how strong we are, there's nothing we can do. Hun Yin and Jian Chuanye's eyes were gloomy as they locked onto Lin Chen's position. They were not in a hurry to make a move. The current Lin Chen was digging his own grave. The absolute life and death talent burned one's vitality to fight. The longer one lasted, the stronger the power obtained. However, if one could not kill the designated target, the talent would not be removed. Now, the power obtained from the absolute life and death talent was as high as 60,000 times. With the addition of the God Slayer talent, it was 350,000 times. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Lin Chen laughed wildly. Laugh? Let's see how you'll laugh when you die later. Hun Yin was so angry that he laughed instead. He continued to condense holy power and instilled it into his heavenly Yin Odd crystal. How could Lin Chen not laugh? Up until now, everything was going according to his plan. Lin Chen's winning rate was now 30%. Fake gods were indeed very powerful. This 30% was obtained by risking his life. However, Lin Chen still had a trump card. In the previous battle, he did not use the heavenly invisibility rune even once. It's time. The part that sovereign's descent and absolute life and death are not enough, I'll use it to make up for it. Lin Chen's mouth was bleeding, but he grinned. He stared at the blazing sun behind the three fake gods. Although it was still extremely far away, he could already feel the fatal high temperature. The sun. He had been fighting with the three of them and constantly moving in order to get as close to the sun as possible. However, this distance was already his limit. His absolute life and death talent meant that he did not have much time left. Absolute life and death was already at the end, and Sovereign's descent was ready. Host has activated the Sun God talent, beginning to condense the power of the sun and transform it into Sun God power. The moment the system screen popped up, the three fake gods and all the saints present were shocked. Boom! An explosive sound reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. It was as if the heavens and earth had been blasted apart. A scorching hot aura was released from Lin Chen's body. Chapter 770. Lin Chen's body ignited with boundless sun god fire. Every pore on his body exuded the power of the sun god. His hair fluttered like sun god fire. His bones seemed to contain boundless sun god fire. The surging sun god fire merged with his countless meridians and fused with his flesh and blood. It was flawless and flawless. The sun god fire was like countless giant dragons roaring in Lin Chen's body, telling of the power of the sun and its magnificence. Are you kidding me? Where did this brat get such powerful strength? Not good. Something is wrong with him. Abandon the battle. The Lei family's fake god had just stopped the pagoda master, and the Mo family's fake god was about to charge into the spiritual state. The power that erupted from Lin Chen's body was extremely terrifying. Even they felt a fatal threat. If Han Yin and the other two didn't care, they would be the ones to die when Lin Chen turned around. The pagoda master and the dean were also dumbfounded. Lin Chen had completely overturned their understanding. They thought that Lin Chen, who had temporarily stepped into the saint realm with the cultivation of the 7th-level combat emperor, was already at a heaven-defying level. They didn't expect him to reach a higher level. Heavenly shift. The heavenly secret umbrella suddenly opened. 3 spatial light pillars crossed the starry sky. The Mo family's fake god pulled Long Di Sha and the Lei family's fake god into the spatial light pillars and disappeared. When they reappeared, they had crossed a long distance and arrived beside Han Yin and the others. As soon as they arrived, Lin Chen's sun god talent was officially activated. Boom, boom, boom. The sun god force entered his body. He was like a new sun rising slowly. The space trembled, the universe was distorted, and the laws of nature were shattered. Many blazing suns rose from Lin Chen's head and turned into thousands of sun wheels. The condensed sun god force transformed into 9 spiraling heavenly rivers that intertwined and flowed endlessly. The raging heat waves set the several hundred stars in the vicinity ablaze. Bathed in the endless yang fire, Lin Chen's magnificent divine might shrouded his head like a supreme divine crown. Lin Chen stepped out of the sea of fire. When his divine eyes opened, the boundless starry sky was instantly illuminated by the blazing divine light of the sun. The terrifying temperature illuminated the 9 heavens and 10 earths, like 2 blazing suns in the starry sky. Above Lin Chen's head was an endless blazing sun. His blood-soaked silver robe was embellished with the blazing flames of the sun. His robe billowed with the flames of hell. Lin Chen's myriad Dao sun wheel spun behind him, and he stepped on an endless sea of fire. It was as if billions of fire dragons had submitted to him. The fire of the sun burned the starry sky and illuminated the galaxy, making him look like a sun god who created the universe. His divine eyes scanned through all of the fake gods, and all of them shuddered in fear as cold sweat trickled down their backs. This kind of power was too terrifying. He was like the sun god of the primordial era, overlooking all living beings. The dean stared at Lin Chen's godlike back and couldn't help but burst into tears as he cheered loudly. God bless the spirit state! Just how strong is this kid? The Tower Master's heart trembled. Even a Saint King wouldn't be able to transform from a 7th-level combat emperor to such a horrifying level. They are all gathered together? Good timing, ha ha. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat as he let out a wild laugh. His laughter shook the universe, and he looked down at the galaxy, causing the sea of fire to surge. Endless divine power shook the entire galaxy. He was worried that the duration of his sun god talent was too short, and he was afraid that his opponents would break through the spirit state. He didn't expect them to gather together. Don't be fooled by his aura. He is almost at the peak of 3rd-level combat emperor. Let's attack together. His vitality is still slipping away. If we can hold on, we will win. Hun Yin and the fake gods of the Mo family said in unison. While they were talking, Lin Chen wielded the azure moon as fast as lightning, and a domineering and powerful saber energy slashed out like a long rainbow. The majestic moonlight split open a horrifying space crack and formed a deep abyss. The surging divine power of the sun and the water calamity battle aura combined perfectly, and with the support of billions of violent and ferocious dragon energy, it was earth-shattering. This move, Mirror Moon Imperial God, was even more powerful than its creator, Saber Saintly Chongsheng. Kun Wuji, Dragon Devouring. Wang Yi opened his bloody mouth and shot out a beam of light that could devour heaven and earth, creating the image of 10,000 beasts devouring a dragon. Netherworld Reincarnation Destruction. The sword energy swept across the sky, and the night sword Chuan slashed through the galaxy, splitting the chilling and cold netherworld presence. Heavenly Yin Great Ice Prison. Hun Yin pointed out with a pale face, and the holy power that was as vast as the heavens and earth surged. The icy aura of the odd crystal that covered millions of miles suddenly descended around Lin Chen, freezing all the vitality. Netherblood Mystic Dragon Claw. Long Disha's body flowed with violent and ferocious dragon blood aura, and he turned into a blood dragon that was hundreds of thousands of feet long and pounced forward. Bang! 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 Saber cutting through eternity, chi-breaking rainbow. The huge attacks of both sides triggered an earth-shattering collision. This saber attack had the penetrative characteristic, and the aftershocks shook the fake gods to the point of vomiting blood. It wasn't over yet. Lin Chen's attack was like the most terrifying tribulation in the world. It was endless, and it came crashing down like a raging tide. A spiritual giant that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall surged with brilliant sunlight, and it punched out with a spiritual attack that could overturn heaven and earth. This spiritual attack also had the penetrative characteristic, and it also carried the divine power of the sun that could burn everything in the world. Its aura was boundless, and it burned the starry sky. 10,000 miles heavenly fate fall. Hidden sky thunderhand. The heavenly fate umbrella blasted out 10,000 rays of gray light that seemed to cover the infinite secrets of the heavens, and it overflowed with a destructive aura. Together with the condensed black ball of lightning, it collided with the spiritual sun god fist that was smashing down. Bang! The attack surged, and the galaxy shattered. The fake gods were pushed back again. Lin Chen used the silent step, and the divine light of the sun around his body tore out a ray of light at an extremely fast speed. He threw a few punches with the most powerful 7 killing forces, which were all aimed at the body of Wang Yiquang's Kun Peng and the dragon body of the fake god of the Long family. The killing force was the most powerful of the 7 killing forces, and it contained the most powerful force that could definitely kill the enemy. Once the punch was thrown out, it would kill. Poochie. The killing force penetrated the bodies of the two fake gods, and they vomited blood crazily. Their originally heavily injured bodies were covered with new injuries. The sun god didn't only increase Lin Chen's cultivation level, but also his pure strength. Lin Chen didn't even know that he had hundreds of millions of dragon power under his control. He only knew that he was now unprecedentedly strong. He was so strong that his scalp was numb. Ah, come on, aren't you fake gods very arrogant? Where did your arrogance go? Damn it, how dare you invade the land of the 9 prefectures? I'll hammer you all to death. Lin Chen laughed arrogantly, and his aura covered the sky. He was like a god that had descended to the mortal world, and he was suppressing the 6 fake gods with his saber. The dean and the tower master were dumbfounded. He was too invincible. He was too powerful. What kind of scene was this? A young man of the War Emperor realm was fighting against 6 fake gods. How could they not feel their blood boiling? The current Lin Chen was in existence with the combination of 4 super powerful talents. Ultimate Moment plus Life and Death plus Strengthened God Slayer plus Sun God. This talent state could be said to be truly unprecedented in history. Perhaps Lin Chen wouldn't have the chance to achieve it in the future. This might be the only chance for a War Emperor realm cultivator to defeat a Sage realm cultivator. The Sun God only had 60 seconds, and Lin Chen had to use all his strongest trump cards as soon as possible. Chapter 771. The Dean and the Pagoda Master were far away from Lin Chen. They kept using space teleportation to support Lin Chen. Annihilation. Rumble. The rapidly rotating spiritual light beam emitted an aura that could annihilate everything and bombarded all the fake gods. With the help of the Sun God's talent, Lin Chen unleashed the strongest annihilation spiritual attack, which made their holy bodies dim and lose their vitality. The penetrative characteristic made them suffer a lot of pain and suffering. Poochie. The 6 of them vomited blood, and the injuries on their divine bodies became more and more serious. It was like their weakness at the beginning. Although the fake gods were strong, their divine bodies made them very weak. This was why they often hid behind the scenes to control the situation of the 9 prefectures. If they were bombarded by a large number of world-suppressing sacred tablets, their injuries would cause irreparable damage. If their defense was not broken, it would be fine. However, once their defense was broken, they would be defeated and their opponents would break through. This was the case for Lin Chen now. The injuries he inflicted on them were unimaginable. In just a few hundred rounds, the 6 fake gods were seriously injured. Lin Chen's situation wasn't any better. He was injured time and time again by the attacks of the fake gods. However, his absolute life and death had already burned him to this point. He didn't care about anything else and decided to fight with his life. Damn it, this kid wants to die with us. Lunatic, this is a lunatic. Damn it, does he want to die with us for the sake of the 9 prefectures? Emotianji, quickly think of a way. The 6 fake gods were terrified. The Sun God's talent was similar to the Godslayer's talent. They were both talents that increased Lin Chen's spiritual energy, pure strength, and battle chi cultivation. As a result, Lin Chen was a perfect combination. His pure strength and spiritual energy could share the different attacks in the battle and break their defense again and again. They were even killed by Lin Chen and thought that Lin Chen wanted to die with them. We can't hold back anymore. Everyone, go all out. As long as we don't die, we will eventually kill our way into the 9 prefectures and refine the energy of the Earth core to recover. Now that the Firmament Pagoda Master has made his move, I'm afraid that the demons have already started to riot. This kid is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Use your strongest attack to kill him. Mo Tianji transmitted his voice telepathically. The 6 fake gods looked at each other and immediately made up their mind. They covered each other and swiftly executed their movement techniques. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes that flickered with the divine fire of the sun. He sensed an unprecedented wave of holy power rising from the bodies of the 6 fake deities. At this moment, the 6 pseudo-divinities no longer held back. They were going to use their strongest killing moves. One move to decide the victor. Lin Chen glanced at his sun god talent. Remaining 24 seconds. His holy body, which was filled with divine power, was about to run out of life. The absolute life and death talent had burned his life force to the last moment. Sword fury towards the heavens. Jian Chuanya let out a cold shout and took out his holy sword. A sword flew out and the sword light twisted the wind and clouds, stirring up endless sword chi into a storm. The sword light in the center of the storm was the tip of the broken holy sword. Like a wild dragon, it pierced straight toward Lin Chen. Tens of thousands of sharp sword lights shot out. They shattered the stars and swept across the heavens, almost sealing off Lin Chen's escape route. This was a half-orange grade sword technique. When used by a fake god like Jian Chuanya, its power could pierce through the spiritual state continent. Blood devour, sky-splitting dragon breath. Long Disha spat out a mouthful of thick blood essence. His dragon breath condensed into a vast dragon claw that slashed down from the vast starry sky. It furiously grabbed the void above Lin Chen's head with a domineering aura and looked down on the world. 10,000 piercing pear blossoms. Mo Tianji's blood essence sprinkled on the heavenly secrets umbrella. Countless tiny needle holes grew on the sides of the umbrella, and countless sharp needle-like lights shot out. They fluttered in the air like a storm of pear blossoms. They emitted extreme white light and spun at a terrifying speed, piercing through the void. Each of the needle-like lights could almost penetrate the defense of a saint. Thousands of needle-like lights surrounded Lin Chen from all directions as if hell had descended. Thunder shaking the 9 heavens. The fake god of the Lei family turned into the claws of a huge beast, and energy fluctuations similar to odd crystals erupted from his body. Under the rotating starry sky, they turned into 2 silver thunderbolts that attacked from the front and back of Lin Chen like dragons swimming in the sea. Exploding star sky. Wang Yiquang's Kuan Ping giant body condensed all of his bloodline power. The ultimate Kuan Ping could swallow stars and turn them into energy before releasing them. At this moment, he released all of his saint power in one breath and turned it into a beam of saint light that pierced through the stars and blasted toward Lin Chen. Hun Yin's blood and essence surged, and his saint power fluctuated like tides. The heavenly Yin odd crystal in his body continued to vibrate. When it merged with his saint power, he struck out with his palm. Heavenly Yin freezing palm. The horrifying chilly Yin energy successfully condensed into a huge palm that covered tens of thousands of acres. When it slapped toward Lin Chen, many meteorite fragments were frozen into ice crystals and turned into powder quietly. The energy in that huge palm contained world-destroying energy. It was another half-orange-grade combat technique that was infinitely close to an orange-grade combat technique. Boom! The 6 fake gods unleashed their most powerful killer moves almost at the same time and swept toward Fang Qi with devastating force. Even the Academy Master and the Tower Master, who were standing far behind Lin Chen, changed their expressions in horror. This was the most powerful attack that these fake gods could unleash with their current strength. These fake gods weren't ordinary saints, they were criminals from the saint prison. Not to mention the rare top-tier purple-level techniques and top-tier ultimate items, they even had half-orange grade techniques with them. They were terrifyingly rich in resources. Their final counterattack before their deaths was enough to move countless Saint Realm experts. Oh no! If the spiritual state is hit by this attack, it will be torn into pieces and truly fall apart. Maybe even the heavenly state will be destroyed. Aren't we supposed to chase these guys away? How come this Lin Chen kid is forcing them to risk their lives? The Academy Master and the Tower Master were anxious. In the entire 9 states, no one except for the ancient era when the 100 saints appeared together could withstand this attack. At this moment of despair, Lin Chen's eyes glowed brilliantly as he stood proudly in the starry sky like the sun. Come on then. This is the last attack. With a heroic spirit, Lin Chen immediately mobilized all his 9 tribulations origin battle chi and activated the system to activate the talent, Sovereign's Descent. Talent combination, Sovereign's Descent, has been activated. Accumulated energy 20.05 million points. The host's next attack will be enhanced. Host activated Heavenly Invisibility rune to hide the trajectory and presence of the next attack. Consumed 29.5 million points of rune energy. Duration 3 seconds. Cooldown 40 seconds. The moment the system's screen popped up, Lin Chen, who was surrounded by the sun god's light and the orange essence of life, smiled. The azure moonlight in his left hand flowed with a dazzling radiance as the mirror moon imperial god was being prepared. The 9 tribulations star condensed in his right palm, but he was the only one who could sense the destructive energy waves that were close to destroying the world. In the face of that shocking attack, Lin Chen brazenly charged forward. Chapter 772. The attacks of the 6 fake gods were the most powerful and domineering attacks that Lin Chen had ever seen. As far as the eye could see, the domain of the Saint Realm mental energy was filled with deadly attacks. If it weren't for his 4 innate talents, even 100,000 Lin Chen wouldn't be able to block even 1/10,000th of the attacks. If he were to face them head-on, even if he had the Sovereign's Descent, he might be able to break through the attacks of the fake gods and inflict some damage with the 2 offensive talismans, but he definitely wouldn't be able to kill them. This was definitely not the result that Lin Chen wanted. His absolute life and death had reached the end of its time limit. Either the fake gods would die or Lin Chen would die. The attacks were extremely fast. Lin Chen's saint-level spiritual energy operated at an extremely fast speed. The moment he charged over, thousands of thoughts appeared in his mind, but he still hadn't made a move. Finally, when all the attacks were less than 100 miles away from Lin Chen, who was using the silent step, was covered in an immeasurable amount of sunlight. Beams of divine light soared into the sky one after another, making him look like a blazing sun. When Lin Chen collided with the attacks head-on, his body was covered in a dazzling purple light. The pagoda master and the dean's faces turned pale. Lin Chen was charging head-on without any defense? At this moment, the dragon claw made of blood, the rainstorm-like needles, the endless storm of sword chi, the cold and gloomy giant palm, the destructive beam of light flowing with the aura of the Kuan Pung, and the 2 thunder dragons' stigmata all struck Lin Chen. The 6 fake gods were overjoyed, but in the next moment, their expressions changed drastically. Super full counterattack. Accompanied by the purple light, Lin Chen let out a furious roar that soared into the sky. All of his attacks were actually reflected back at him? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The overwhelming barrage of attacks formed a fearsome momentum that struck back at the 6 fake divinities. The trajectory of the barrage of attacks was close to the original trajectory, and the speed of the barrage of attacks was incredibly fast. Stunned. All of the fake gods were stunned. No one had expected Lin Chen to do this. How did he do it? How could there be such a heaven-defying skill in this world? To be able to reflect the attacks of 6 Saint Realm experts without any damage, even Saint Realm experts who were a few levels higher than the 6 fake gods couldn't do it. Even when they were at their peak before they were sent to the Saint Prison, they could only take the attacks head-on. It was impossible for them to reflect the attacks so perfectly. Could it be the legendary orange-grade battle technique that could turn something rotten into something magical? Instantly, thousands of thoughts, such as fear, shock, and astonishment appeared in their minds. But they couldn't care, They couldn't care less to be concerned as they retreated through space. Oh no! Mo Tianji's complexion was deathly pale. His heavenly secret teleportation had just been completed because of Lin Chen's sun god innate skill. He still had at least 6 hours before he could use it again. Ha 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 ha. Fake! Exclamation point. T22 to you. Chen's to the god to be. T. S to T. Bang. T. S bang. T. Chi. The destructive storm that engulfed everything in its path converged from all directions and instantly collided with the space near the 6 fake deities. Then, the void trembled violently, and a mushroom cloud of energy abruptly erupted. Boom! 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 Countless falling stars were shattered by the aftershocks. A tornado-shaped tornado was raging. The storm of sword power stirred up the sky and mixed with the gloomy, cold air. The lightning stigmata exploded crazily. The sharp needle-like light was like flying leaves and flowers. The dense dragon blood was disorderly and chaotic. Now and then, it was hit by the fierce aura of Kuan Peng. Ah! My bloodline power, Lin Chen, you will die a horrible death. Where did this little bastard get such a trump card? Mai's heavenly odd crystal. Mournful wails echoed in the storm. The false gods, who were already seriously injured, were hit by their own full-strength attacks. When they launched the attack, they had already used up all their holy power. Now, they did not have any extra energy to defend themselves. Their saint bodies collapsed, and even if they didn't die, they were only half a step away from death. Even the Tower Master and the Dean were stupefied by this scene. Lin Chen's move was completely beyond their understanding. This wasn't an attack from a heavenly spirit realm Yuan venerate, but a full-strength attack from a saint realm warrior. And it was launched by the 6 fake gods. This was the one-time active talent of the purple level, super full counterattack. Lin Chen had used it to block many attacks from Battle Emperor realm warriors in the Firmament Tower and perfectly reflected their attack. According to the description of the talent in the system, super full counterattack was also applicable to Saint Realm warriors. It could perfectly reflect the attacks of Saint Realm warriors, which was a heaven-defying talent. Lin Chen had been waiting for the best opportunity to use it. The attacks of the 6 fake gods were enough to wipe out the entire spiritual state, but Lin Chen's eyes flashed with excitement and craziness. It wasn't over yet. At this point in the plan, Lin Chen had a 50% chance of winning. Go! The 9 Tribulation Star will decide life and death in the 9 states. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Lin Chen suddenly tossed out the 9-colored star in his hand. It was dazzling, and the translucent divine light contained Lin Chen's 9 Tribulation origin power. It was breathtakingly beautiful and breathtaking. No, to be precise, it was the 9 Tribulation saintly source. There was a trace of the godly power of the sun in it, which increased the power of the 9 Tribulation star dramatically. The host activated level 5 recharge and level 5 penetration rune, consuming 21.9 million rune energy. The recharge rune increased the power by 5 times, and the 200 million rune energy of the Sovereign's Descent increased the attack power by more than 10 times. Ultimate Moment, Life and Death, Godslayer, Sun God and Sovereign's Descent. With the combination of the 5 talents, the 9 Tribulation star this time was far more powerful than any other time. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with determination. The moment the 9 Tribulation star left his hand, it quickly turned into a 9-colored star and fell into the monstrous storm. This was a light that only Lin Chen could see. The heavenly invisibility rune perfectly concealed its presence, and the fake gods who were under his attack didn't sense it at all. Just as Lin Chen's sun god talent entered the 10-second countdown, a vast 9-colored light pillar that was millions of kilometers wide suddenly bloomed, connecting the heavens and the earth, sweeping through the vast starry sky and piercing through the entire galaxy. The brilliant divine light illuminated everything in the universe. What's this? No. It's not the attack of those fake gods. Block it. Horrified, the Dean and the Tower Master retreated to the sky above the spiritual state as fast as lightning. Then, they activated all their holy power and created 2 holy light barriers. Buzz, buzz. The moment the 2 holy light barriers, one green and one blue, were formed, the violent spiritual essence crashed toward them like a storm, creating energy ripples on the surface of the barriers. The 2 of them gritted their teeth and withstood it. If the aftermath of this energy rushed into the spiritual state, the entire spiritual state would be plunged into misery and suffering. Fortunately, Lin Chun had drawn the attention of the 9 Tribulation Star far enough away to stay close to the sun and fight with the 3 fake gods. Therefore, the energy waves from the 9 Tribulation Star didn't spread to the spiritual state. The blooming 9-colored light beam didn't create any earth-shattering noises. It only had the silent power of annihilation that could destroy everything in its path. He still has a killer move. How is it possible? How can our hegemony come to an end here? I hate it. I've traveled across the sacred boundary all my life, and I've had countless wives and killed countless enemies. However, I was defeated by this kid. While the 9-colored light beam spun, Lin Chun seemed to hear the screams of the fake gods. Chapter 773. Even if Lin Chun activated the 3-inch calamity, the destructive fluctuations of the 9-colored light pillar continued to spread. His body continued to die. The energy aftermath of the 9 Tribulations Star was too terrifying. Even he could not withstand it. Lin Chun held the azure moon tightly. There was only one step left. Lin Chun had not used the heavenly invisibility rune from the beginning. He had been hiding this trump card in the battle with the fake gods. There was no other reason. If the fake gods realized that they could not sense Lin Chun's attack, they would most likely choose to avoid the battle and flee. Because to their heavily injured bodies, an attack that they could not sense was the most fatal. Therefore, he had kept this rune until the end. He had kept it for his strongest attack so that he could eliminate all the fake gods together. Whoosh! It was unknown which fake god had kept this trump card. He actually escaped from the 9-colored light pillar. Die! Lin Chun slashed horizontally, and the mirror moon imperial god, which had been accumulating power in the azure moon, slashed out. Whoosh! Under the starry sky illuminated by the 9-colored light pillar, it was as if a beam of moonlight flashed past in an instant. The figure was terrified and shouted, "No, no!" Rumble! The moonlight slashed down, and a gloomy and cold aura exploded. The sacred body was split into 2, and a large number of elemental light balls scattered. The orange light burning all over Lin Chun's body suddenly dissipated. The person who had escaped was actually Hun Yin. However, the moment he killed Hun Yin, Lin Chun's expression suddenly changed. Oh no! The restriction of the life and death talent had been removed, but the aftermath of the 9 Tribulations Star continued to destroy all of Lin Chun's vitality. System, activate super-dimensional teleportation. Before Lin Chun could activate super-dimensional teleportation, his whole body was destroyed and annihilated by the terrifying airwave. The energy of the strengthened version of the God Slayer talent was rapidly drained. In the end, the 9-colored light pillar slowly disappeared, and all the fake gods died. Victory! In this battle, Lin Chun did his best to set up a trap, exhausting all of his resources, preparing and persevering time and time again. Finally, he killed the false divinity. However, the reason why they were able to kill the fake deity this time was all thanks to the super all-out counterattack at the last moment, as well as the fact that the fake deity himself was seriously injured. In the end, the 9 Tribulations Star became the last straw that overwhelmed them. If it had been 6 third-level Saint Realm experts in perfect condition, perhaps the result would have been completely different. Although they had won the battle, Lin Chun had also paid a heavy price. His body broke into several pieces and floated in the starry sky. His life aura grew dimmer and dimmer. Damn it, Brother Chen, am I going to be blown up by myself in the end? Lin Chen's heart was filled with bitterness. As his life force gradually faded into nothingness, a faint green light flashed between his eyebrows. The host is on the verge of death, activating passive talent. Destined one. Boom. The green light was like a pillar. When it bloomed from Lin Chen's body, it gathered around his body and nourished strands of tenacious life energy. It began to fuse with his body once more. This is, Lin Chen's eyes bloomed with the light of new life and faith. Destined one. He did not expect that when he had spent nearly 10 million attribute points to fuse with the God Slayer fragment, he had unexpectedly obtained this talent that had become his life-saving trump card. The last time it was activated was when he first encountered the descendant of the fake deity, Ma Bai. This time, it had saved his life again. In less than 15 minutes, Lin Chen's body was reborn and completely restored. However, the enhanced version of the God Slayer and the Sun God's talent state had been removed. The current Lin Chen was a combat emperor. I've broken through. Lin Chen was surprised and happy at the same time. Being a heavens-destined warrior had given him a new lease of life. What stood after the breakthrough was the great bottleneck of the 8th heavenly realm. He was now an early 8th heavenly realm combat emperor. Now is not the time to be surprised. It's so hot. Without thinking too much, Lin Chen activated the 9 calamity body to defend himself. Although this space was still far away from the sun, it was already considered a very dangerous place for a combat emperor. First, I'll collect the spoils of war from the fake deities and then use the super-dimensional teleportation to return. This vast starry sky contains all kinds of spatial storms, heavenly flames, meteorites, ice demons, wind, and so on. I won't be able to escape if I encounter any of them. Lin Chen put away the severely damaged azure moon and activated the ultimate moment again. He activated the silent step at full speed and rushed towards the space where the fake deities had fallen. The starry sky was extremely dangerous. Even a 9th-level combat emperor would find it difficult to protect himself. Lin Chen was no exception. If he had not fought with the fake deities and cleared all obstacles in his way, Lin Chen would not have been able to use his movement skill to travel freely in the vast starry sky. Azure Dragon Keep. Lin Chen released his Dragon Emperor. The man and the dragon frantically cleaned up the battlefield. The Azure Dragon was responsible for collecting the attribute light balls while Lin Chen took away the spoils of war from the fake deities. This time, Lin Chen's heart was trembling when he cleaned up the battlefield. It was not because of the huge amount of attribute light balls, but because of the treasure chests and spoils of war obtained after killing the fake deities. The top-grade storage rings of the fake deities had exploded during the battle. Most of the items were destroyed, leaving behind only a few valuable treasures. First, there was a badly damaged holy sword. Although it was severely damaged, its holy aura still remained. It was Jian Chuanye's sword. There was a gray stone that contained boundless spatial energy. Even the Holy Force Jade Slip did not contain even 1% of it. There was also a piece of red satin. Lin Chen had also obtained a piece of red satin from the Dean. Even the Dean could not see through its secret. There was a scroll sealed with dark elemental energy that flowed as deep as the sea. There were also 2 fist-sized scarlet blood crystals. With the help of the Golden Eyes twin, Lin Chen could faintly see the silhouettes of 2 dragons dancing in the air. Inside the scarlet blood crystals, there was a draconic might that Lin Chen had never felt before. Every single one of these items was extremely extraordinary. Lin Chen had never seen them before. Damn, I've struck it rich this time. Lin Chen took away all the spoils of war. He did not have time to study them now. He would just take them first. Finally, there was a fingernail-sized crystal jade fragment suspended in the void. It flowed with a terrifying chill, as if thousands of icebergs were condensed within the fragment. Even Lin Chen did not dare to approach it easily. This is the heavenly odd crystal? Lin Chen was stunned. His heartbeat quickened, but then his heart sank. No, it's just a fragment of the odd crystal. Most of the energy was used by Hun Yin to block my attack. It seems that there is less than 1/20th of the energy left of the complete odd crystal. Sigh, what a pity! This heavenly odd crystal was a top treasure refined by Hun Yin. It could only be found in the sacred boundary. Lin Chen had personally experienced the power of the odd crystal. It had once forced him into a desperate situation. However, Lin Chen was not too depressed. If it was a complete odd crystal, Lin Chen might not even be able to take it away. After all, the power of an odd crystal was too terrifying. An odd crystal could increase the combat power of a sacred boundary several times. This value was probably only comparable to half-orange rank combat skills. After taking away the heavenly odd crystal fragment, Lin Chen looked at the void on the other side. There were 6 attribute treasure chests floating there. The things that he had just obtained were the remnants of the pseudo-god's heritage from the battle. The 6 treasure chests were the attribute treasure chests that Lin Chen had obtained from killing the pseudo-god. 6 attribute treasure chests, 2 orange crystal treasure chests, and the other 4 attribute treasure chests. This was the first time Lin Chen had seen them. The 4 attribute treasure chests flowed with colorful brilliance and exuded a supreme and noble aura. Lin Chen grabbed the 6 treasure chests. He had never been so excited and expectant before. These were the treasure chests that the pseudo-god dropped. What kind of things would he get? Chapter 774. Lin Chen felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His mouth was so wide open that he could stuff an egg into it. Damn! A permanent orange-grade talent fragment? The huge surprise stimulated Lin Chen's brain. He almost thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Orange-tier talent, all of them were unprecedented levels. Every single one of them was Lin Chen's strongest trump card. Even in his dreams, Lin Chen wanted to have a permanent orange-tier talent. That was his life-saving talisman. Even if it was a talent fragment, at least he had something to look forward to. I've been waiting day and night. You're finally here. Lin Chen's heart trembled as he opened the system and quickly browsed through the instant light split shadows talent. Permanent orange-grade talent fragment. Instant light split shadows, 1/2. Consume a specific talent point to divide all of the host's attacks into 5 parts. The power will not decrease. It is applicable to all of the host's current characteristic runes. After reading this concise and comprehensive explanation, Lin Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. All attacks can be divided into 5 parts, and they are applicable to all characteristic runes. In other words, my illusion runes are also applicable. If I use 4 illusions to activate Mirror Moon Imperial God at the same time, it will be 5 Mirror Moon Imperial God moves. If I activate this talent, it will be... Lin Chen was terrified as he thought about it. 5 people, 5 moves? If it was divided into 5 parts, it would be 25 moves? 25 moves of Mirror Moon Imperial God at the same time, and it would be buffed with penetration and charging runes. What kind of scene would that be? It was 2F** King Abnormal, the invincible God Slayer, the stronger the Sun God, and that instant light split shadows that could turn the situation around. Orange-grade talents, each one was more abnormal than the last. This talent is 2F** King Abnormal. Lin Chen gasped in amazement. He was so excited that he was sweet-talking. Orange-grade talents were indeed powerful to the point of defying the heavens. If Lin Chen had this instant light split shadows talent when he was fighting against the fake god, he would not have needed to use super full counterattack as a backup. He could have just thrown out a 9 Calamity Star and activated instant light split shadows to split into 5 9 Calamity Stars of the same power. What kind of scene would that be? Fake God? Even the dregs would be blown away. However, not all talents were perfect. The sun god had a short time limit, and the godslayer had to have enough enemies and powerful strength to exert the power of the godslayer. Furthermore, the godslayer innate talent was not suitable for the phantom rune. When activated, only the main body would truly enter the godslayer innate talent state. Rather than saying that instant light split shadows had a flaw, it would be better to say that it was Lin Chen's own limitations. Why was Lin Chen able to create 4 doppelgangers that were comparable to the original body? Why was the doppelgangers able to use all of Lin Chen's ultimate techniques, but the 9 tribulation stars could only be used once in a short period of time? The 9 tribulations star required the consumption of the 9 tribulations origins. Ultimate restoration could replenish the depletion of battle chi and mental energy, but it could not replenish the depletion of the 9 tribulations origins. The phantom doppelganger possessed Lin Chen's 9 tribulations battle chi, but the 9 tribulations origin source was connected to the main body. If the doppelganger used the 9 tribulations stars, it would only consume the 9 tribulations origins of the main body. To put it simply, it was not that the instant light split shadows innate talent was not suitable for the 9 tribulation stars, but that the phantom rune was unable to increase the number of times the 9 tribulation stars could be used. Therefore, the 9 tribulation stars could only be used once in a short period of time in a battle. An unprecedented scene of dozens of 9 tribulations stars being used together would probably never happen. However, 1 doppelganger into 5 was also extremely heaven-defying. The instant light split shadows and sovereign's descent would be a great killing weapon that could destroy heaven and earth. Although the 9 tribulation stars cannot be used by the phantom doppelganger, half-orange grade combat skills can be used. Lin Chen was not discouraged. He saw another limitless possibility of the instant light split shadows, and that was a top-grade combat skill. In fact, if he could master orange-grade combat skills in the future, he could also use the phantom doppelganger. Coupled with the instant light split shadows, Lin Chen believed that he would be able to reach new heights of handsomeness and strength by then. It seemed like he had thought of many things, but in fact, only a few breaths had passed. Lin Chen looked around and frowned slightly. There are a large number of meteorites nearby. We have to retreat quickly. He tied up the remaining sacred bodies of Wang Yiquang and Hun Yin. The rest of the fake gods had already been destroyed in the previous explosion, but only the sacred bodies of these 2 people were preserved. Although their sacred bodies were broken and dim, and the remaining sacred power was less than 1,000th of their severely injured state, they were still a great supplement for Lin Chen's Dragon Emperor. The prerequisite was that he had to solve the problem of how to refine them. Without having the time to carefully look at how many attribute light balls the Dragon Emperor had obtained, a large number of meteorites were approaching. Lin Chen hurriedly activated the super-dimensional teleportation talent, moving the host to space number 1. The space light pillar broke, and Lin Chen disappeared. Lin Chen did not know that after he left, a red flame ignited in the void not far away. It was like a dancing fairy, beautiful and gorgeous. In the flame, a beautiful figure slowly walked out. Gazing at the shattered space, the beautiful woman clapped her hands, and couldn't help but clap. This child is really a peerless sacred talent in the mortal world. Although he does not have a special bloodline, even I cannot see through his magical powers. Interesting. I did not expect to encounter such a situation in the mortal world. Her fiery red dress was beautiful beyond compare. The woman's temperament and appearance were the most beautiful. She turned around and stared in the direction Lin Chen left. Her eyebrows were like 2 burning flames, extremely mysterious. Come out? Suddenly, the woman's face was as cold as frost. Her delicate hand grabbed the void and pulled. A bloody figure with cracked skin was pulled out from the crack in the void. It was the fake god of the Mo clan, Mo Tianji. He did not die. With his skills as a divine fortune-teller, the explosion of the 9 tribulations star did not kill him. How is this possible? Who are you? How can you see through my Tianji holy escape? Mo Tianji was injured all over. He stared at the beautiful woman in front of him in horror. The pressure from the ladder was extraordinary. Not to mention that he was severely injured. Even if he was not in the holy prison, he might not be comparable to this woman in front of him. You are not qualified to know my name. Do you know this? The beautiful woman in red sneered. A red flame with flowing red light rose from her palm. Mo Tianji's pupils shrank. You are from the Divine Flame Palace? The woman in red smiled. At least you have some eyesight. Looking at your appearance, you must be a criminal from the holy prison. You are just a remnant of the evil. Die. As soon as she finished speaking, her jade-like hand slapped the top of Mo Tianji's head. The latter was bleeding from his 7 orifices. His life was slowly extinguished. His eyes were filled with despair. His cultivation was destroyed. No, killing you would only dirty my hand. As if sensing something, the woman in red suddenly looked in the direction of the Jiuzhou continent. The aura of the demon race? Chapter 775. On the spiritual state continent, Lin Chen's 9 tribulations star exploded, illuminating the sky with 9 colors like a blazing sun. Everyone stopped fighting. What is this? Is our great true God about to descend? The top masters of both sides stopped fighting, shocked and confused. While the Tower Master and the Dean were worried, the space light beam suddenly broke open, and Lin Chen returned. After a moment of shock, the two were overjoyed. Lin Chen, you're fine. You little brat, you gave me quite a fright. Didn't you say you would drive them away? Why did you fight with your life on the line? The two heaved a sigh of relief, and the top masters of both sides were shocked. Prince Lin Chen won? Could it be that those false gods were killed? Impossible! How could our Lord true God fall at the hands of such a mortal? The battle emperors of the spiritual state continent cheered, but those of the fake gods were in disbelief. The ancestors of the 7 dragon clans stopped fighting, looking shocked. Others might not recognize them, but they couldn't. The 2 bodies in Lin Chen's hands were none other than the false god's true body. Even if the Tower Master of the Firmament Tower came, he couldn't kill them. Are you kidding me? We lost? Lin Chen. It's all because of him. Those guys are dead, but what about the Dragon God Essence Jade? The higher-ups of the dragon clans were in chaos, and the morale of the 7 dragon clans dropped. Bai Ruoyan stared in Lin Chen's direction with tears in her eyes. She finally felt relieved. When the Dean and the Tower Master saw the 2 bodies in Lin Chen's hands, they were shocked. You killed them? Even though the explosion was horrifying, the 2 couldn't believe it. Those were the most vicious criminals in the Saint Prison. 6 of them were killed by Lin Chen? Yes, I killed them all. It's useless to expel them. They'll come back sooner or later. I wanted to kill them from the very beginning. Lin Chen's words caused the Tower Master and the Dean to shake their heads in amazement. Although they had already acknowledged Lin Chen's potential and strength, but they had still underestimated his ambition and lofty aspirations. They were only thinking about how to defend against the attacks of the false gods, but this little guy was actually thinking about how to eliminate 6 false gods. It was shocking. All of a sudden, terrifying energy fluctuations erupted from the bodies of the 2 fake gods. Lin Chen was shocked. Could it be that this thing can explode? The Dean's eyes turned cold. Their saint veins are broken and incomplete. They're about to explode. After exchanging a glance with the Tower Master, the 2 of them nodded. They gathered holy light on their fingertips and waved it, cutting off the heads of the 2 fake god bodies. The 2 of them formed hand seals, and a series of golden sacred runes shot out from their fingertips, circling around the fake deity's body and forcibly sealing the shattered saint bloodline's energy. After being sealed, the fake god bodies looked ordinary like ordinary objects. Lin Chun put them into his storage ring easily and exclaimed at their miraculous method. Ignoring the conversation, Lin Chun looked around the spiritual state. Countless pairs of eyes gathered their battle auras and gazed at him from thousands of miles away. Lin Chun waved his arms and yelled proudly, "The war is over. The spiritual state has won. Those of the false god alliance who surrender will have a chance to live. Those who resist will be killed." At this moment, Lin Chen's voice was like rolling thunder, gathering energy like a rainbow as it spread throughout the entire spiritual state. Wow! With Lin Chen personally announcing this news, and with the removal of the space barrier, it had an incomparable credibility. Endless cheers surged across the spiritual state. Hundreds of millions of people in the spiritual state wept tears of joy, and more places stopped fighting. The members of the fake god alliance were defeated like a landslide, and they retreated one after another. There's still time. We still have a chance. Let's go. Let's go. The other side has a saint. We have no chance. The 7 dragon clans fled with their tails between their legs, and the 3 dragon clans didn't stop them. After all, both sides had paid a heavy price and couldn't chase after them. Suddenly, the Tower Master's expression changed slightly. The emergency jade slip has been activated. I have to return to the Firmament Tower. He cupped his hands at Lin Chen and the Dean. Lin Chen cupped his hands. "Senior, thank you for your righteous help. I, Lin Chen, will remember your kindness." The Tower Master smiled bitterly. "Don't flatter me. Even without me, the result wouldn't have changed much with your strength and resources." Lin Chen shook his head. If the Tower Master hadn't blocked the aftermath of the 9 Tribulations star, the Dean might not have been able to protect the spiritual state. The Tower Master's help had indirectly saved countless lives in the spiritual state. After the Tower Master left, Lin Chen wanted to go to the Firmament Tower to see what was going on. However, he and the Dean had to stay here to control the situation. As the Dean of the Heavenly Song Academy, I declare that the war is officially over. If anyone still wants to fight, come at me. The Dean released his Saint Aura and the Saint Artifact waves of the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower, which spread across the spiritual state and suppressed the remaining members of the Fake God Alliance. In fact, the Dean was at the end of his rope. Although Lin Chen had shared some of the pressure in the battle with the Fake Gods, the Dean's physical condition was even worse than the Fake Gods. He could only stand here with his last breath. However, the Saint Aura was much more powerful than the Battle Emperors. The Dean's aura alone was enough to intimidate the other emperors, and no one dared to rebel. Everyone in the spiritual state cheered Lin Chen's name. From today on, the history of the spiritual state would usher in a new revolution that would rewrite the history of the 9 states that had been tampered with by the fake god. However, there was one person who had overthrown the era ruled by the fake gods and inherited the will of the ancient 100 saints. He was the first person in all of history. There were no gods in the 9 states. With him, Lin Chen, there were no gods. Like the 9-colored light today, this name would illuminate the entire spiritual state and the land of the 9 states. However, things were not that simple. Just when everyone thought that the war was over, a sudden change occurred. Damn you, Lin Chen! How dare you rob the 9 palaces of the 10 sects of the bright state? Today, one of us will die. Little thief, Lin Chen, get out here. If I don't skin you alive today, I'll change my surname to Lin. Damn it. Lin Chen, if you have the guts, don't be a coward. You dare to rob us, but you don't dare to stand out. Shouts and curses covered in vigorous battle auras swept over like a huge wave, covering the sky and covering all directions of the spiritual state. Countless Yuan venerates and battle emperors were like densely packed dots, forming a 1,000-foot wave that attacked from all directions. They were the forces and masters of the 8 states. Some of these forces didn't submit to the fake gods, some were fence-sitters, and some didn't care about the situation in the 9 states. They were all robbed by Lin Chen. Lin Chen had plundered the accumulation of tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, forming a large army that was almost equivalent to the fake god alliance. Many of them were hidden families of the 9 states. They didn't care about the situation in the 9 states on the surface and hadn't come out for a long time. Moreover, because they had been robbed, everyone's hearts were burning with anger. Their killing intent was like a tide, and their might was shocking. Their attacking momentum was even stronger than that of the fake god alliance. They were equivalent to the representatives of all the masters of the 8 states. Almost the entire 9 states had come to suppress Lin Chen. Chapter 776. Tell that little bastard Lin Chen to come out and kneel down to apologize. Damn it. You dare to rob people, but you don't dare to show your face? How come the spiritual state has such a piece of trash? What a scum. You motherf***cur. Hurry up and get out here. Lin Chen, your king sinner who has never been seen before and will never be seen again. You destroyed all the things that belong to the forces. You've committed a heinous crime. You're delaying the continuation of the martial arts civilization in the 9 states. Countless rebukes, curses, questions, and denunciations came from all directions. Even the residents of the spiritual state felt great pressure. These were the masters representing the 8 states, and their auras were magnificent. No. Big Brother Lin Chen is our savior. He's not a sinner. Some young people yelled for Lin Chen, but they were suppressed by the auras released by some battle emperors. The young people's faces turned red. Lin Chen had become the faith of the entire spiritual state. They couldn't allow these people to insult him. Seeing this, the people of the fake god alliance decided to wait and see what would happen. Facing the overwhelming curses, Lin Chen suddenly used the silent step and teleported 100,000 kilometers away. With a flash of 5-colored dragon light, he stood in the center of the spiritual state with the 5 dragons' imperial spear in his hand. His clothes were torn, but his back was as straight as a battle spear. He stood proudly in the sky above the center of the spiritual state and faced all the questioning masters. People of the spiritual state stared at Lin Chen. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Lin Chen said something shocking. A bunch of morons. I'm robbing people like you. Do you think I need you to question me? What's the point of bullying the weak? Come at me if you have the guts. His arrogant laughter spread outside the spiritual state, and countless masters' faces turned red in anger. Damn it. How arrogant. Beat him. Damn it. I don't believe that we can't beat him. You're the stinkiest rat in the history of the 9 states. So what if you're a genius? Do you know that you're destroying the martial arts civilization in the 9 states? Countless masters' murderous intents swept across the spiritual state. Lin Chen had broken down their massive amounts of cultivation methods, weapons, pills, pill recipes, and all sorts of other treasures. These treasures required an endless amount of time to accumulate. Lin Chen's actions had completely cut off their path of retreat. However, if Lin Chen had not done so, the Godslayer would not have been in its strongest state, and he would not have had enough attribute enhancement talents to fight a false god. There was no chance to save the 9 regions. All the people of the spiritual state froze, and even the masters of the Heavenly Song Academy froze in place. Lin Chen defeated the fake god and saved the 9 states, but he became the greatest sinner in history. The dean stared deeply at Lin Chen's back without saying anything. At this moment, this young student's back seemed so tall, as if he could carry the heavens and earth. In order to stop the fake god from invading the spiritual state, Lin Chen battled him in outer space. The masters of the 8 continents didn't know about the battle between Lin Chen and the fake god. Countless people of the spiritual state froze in place, and so did the masters of the fake god alliance. The setting sun slowly shone on the young man's face. The distant sky was filled with heaven-shaking battle cries as countless masters attacked him. With a profound look in his eyes and a smile on his lips, the young man looked into the distance, completely unconcerned. The scene seemed to be frozen at this moment as if it were a scroll of history. All the people of the spiritual state froze in place. What was a hero? Selfless and selfless, moving forward with a heavy burden, defending righteousness and carrying history. What was a master? Caring for the universe, revering the heaven and earth, looking down on all living beings, and creating civilizations. However, the young man before them was a true master. He carried history and overthrew the era ruled by the fake god. All the invaders before him should have become the fake god's slaves or be killed by him. However, Lin Chen saved them and the 9 regions, but he became the worst sinner in the history of the 9 regions. However, he seemed to be so calm and unperturbed. He could take out the body of the fake god to prove his achievements. It would be irrefutable evidence whether or not people would believe him. However, he didn't want to do so. Even if he took it out, how many people would believe him? How many people would stop? Even if he carried the world on his back and was despised by the people in the world, he could still move forward with his head held high and not let them down. This was the heart of a true master. My heart is like a mirror and my will follows my heart. At this moment, in the hearts of the people of the spiritual state, Lin Chen's figure emitted a dazzling and boundless godly light, as if he was holding up the heaven and earth. Like a god, he was imprinted in their hearts for eternity. Even the reclusive old monsters of the fake god alliance who were his enemies couldn't help but exclaim inwardly, "This man is truly an unparalleled genius." Several breaths later, as if everyone had a tacit understanding, their furious roars and shouts resonated throughout the spiritual state. "Protect our savior! Ah! If you want to touch our hero, you have to get through us first." All the Battle Emperor masters leaped into the air again and faced the reclusive factions of the 8 continents with no fear. To be able to follow an expert like Lin Chen in life, wasn't that an honor? Like a fairy floating in the clouds, Bai Ruoyan floated over with the wind and stood quietly by Lin Chen's side. Then, she held Lin Chen's hand with her jade-like hand. Bai Ruoyan smiled gently and said, "I'm willing to face the whole world with you. Even the dry seas and dry mountains can't stop me." Lin Chen held the beauty's soft hand tightly and said with a smile, "Although I'm the most handsome man in the 9 states, I feel like I'm so lucky to meet a fairy like Sister Ruoyan." The two looked at each other and smiled as if they had remembered the first time they met. "Ha! If you want to fight, you have to count me, an old man who has been eliminated by time." The Academy Master's heroic smile shook the world. The Academy Master of the Heavenly Song Academy? This is the Saint Aura. The legend is true. He is a real Saint Realm Master. Countless masters were stupefied and dumbfounded. If there was a Saint Realm Master, the situation would be completely different. No wonder even the legendary Alliance of True Gods didn't dare to make a move. Before the first wave subsided, another wave came. At the moment when the 3 forces were present, the tectonic plates of the spiritual state began to shake violently without any warning. Tsunamis rose and the space trembled. Many people lost their balance and fell to the ground. Something is wrong. Where is the fighting going? I don't think so. The tectonic plates of the spiritual state are shaking. The Battle Emperor Masters of the Alliance were shocked, but the Academy Masters' expression changed drastically. Not only the spiritual state, but also the heavenly state, the godly land, and the entire 9 states began to show signs of violent spatial tremors. Lin Chen's expression turned grim. His spirit energy vaguely sensed a murderous spirit that could destroy everything in the world. It seemed like it was about to wake up and rush out of the 9 states. Is it the 9 great demon eyes? Lin Chen was shocked. He had sensed this presence on the demon battlefield and in the secret chamber where the Academy Master was sleeping. It was the 9 great demon eyes. How can there be changes in the seals? Even if each state uses a saint artifact, it should be able to last for at least 1,000 years before it goes wrong. Cold sweat poured down the Academy Master's forehead. The Academy Master was usually calm in the face of everything, but now, he was so flustered, which showed how serious the problem was. Only an existence above the Sage Realm could make a Sage Realm expert panic. Once the seals in any of the 9 great demon eyes were broken, the 9 states would face the real doomsday. There were countless demon kings and demon emperors in the Devil's Den, as well as a large number of demon monarchs and saint demon kings. The current foundation of the 9 prefectures was incomparable to that of the ancient era. The 9 prefectures could not compete with the number of demons in just one Devil's Eye. Lin Chen didn't notice that the purple-black demonic seal on his palm was flashing with light, as if it was calling out to the demonic eye. Chapter 777. The 9 continents all had complete saint artifacts that could suppress the demon eyes. This was another method left behind by the ancient sages. The spiritual state had the heavenly spirit battle tower. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the spiritual state experienced an upheaval of the demon eyes. In the end, only the Dean joined in the suppression of the demon eyes and sealed them. Now, the 9 demon eyes of the 9 continents were all going crazy. The situation was critical. Is the demon race going to rush out from inside? Lin Chen's eyes were sharp. He didn't have any orange-level talent. If the demon race came out, a few mid-level demon kings could restrain him. Bewilderment and fear began to spread throughout the 9 continents. Only the spiritual state's morale was strong. With Lin Chen here, many people were able to remain calm. However, they were confused about where this upheaval came from. It seems that we have to risk our lives. The Dean stared at the heavenly spirit square and gritted his teeth. Xin Lianyun seemed to have sensed his expression and her face turned pale. No, don't. While the 9 continents were trembling, a light and graceful voice with a hint of surprise and amazement sounded. The mortal world here gave birth to the primeval civilization and is connected to a demon race's nest. Interesting. Other than this little guy, there's another warrior saint bloodline? No, let's see. A beautiful woman in red arrived in the sky of the spiritual state, covered in red flames. The Dean and Lin Chen's expressions changed again. This woman was very powerful. At least, she was beyond Lin Chen's current knowledge. Saint Realm? No, those fake gods are far inferior to her. This was a powerful existence that could dominate the 9 continents by herself. Lin Chen instantly realized the gap between them. However, the Dean fell into deep thought. Finally, the beautiful woman in red turned and stared at Bai Ruoyan. She shook her head and exclaimed, "Too perfect! There's someone in this world who can control the eternal sacred fire. No wonder she can perfectly match the Godly Flame Palace's Godly Flame Sutra." As soon as he said this, Lin Chen and Bai Ruoyan's hearts were in turmoil. This woman knew about Bai Ruoyan's Godly Flame Sutra? That was a genuine orange-tier peerless mental cultivation method that Bai Ruoyan had coincidentally obtained from an auction in the Cloud State. Even the 6 great false gods did not possess a true orange-tier combat skill, let alone an orange-tier mental cultivation technique. The Divine Flame Heart Sutra actually came from the power behind this woman, the Divine Flame Palace? While Lin Chen was still in shock, the beautiful woman in red saw the two of them holding hands tightly. Her eyebrows and the corners of her mouth curled up in joy. She nodded and praised, a perfect match. Not bad, not bad. If these 2 sentences were true, it might cause an even greater uproar when it reached the Divine Flame Palace and the sacred boundary. This was because this red-dressed woman rarely praised any living being. "Little guy, what's your name?" the woman in red asked Lin Chen. He cupped his fists in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Junior Lin Chen greets Senior. Lin Chen, right? I saw your battle with the criminals of the holy prison. Not bad. Cultivate well. Lin Chen's eyebrows twitched. After seeing him shake the 6 great false gods and even kill them as a combat emperor, this woman could still comment on him so calmly. This woman was truly terrifying. Ha ha, little fellow, there's no need to be surprised. The Saints' world has no lack of geniuses. The Saints' world has a history of billions of eras, and far too many extraordinary figures have appeared. Geniuses are like carps in a river. Someone like you might be very strong, but you're far from the strongest. As if she saw through Lin Chen's thoughts, the red-dressed woman laughed loudly. Then, she said, I can suppress the rebellion in the nests of the devil race on this continent, but she and her must follow me back to the sacred boundary and enter the divine flame palace. The woman in red pointed at Shen Lingshuang. She then raised her hand and casually lifted Shen Lingshuang into the air beside her. Lin Chen's heart suddenly sank. She wants to take Sister Ruoyan away? The negotiation was based on the situation where both parties were equal in strength. With the other party's strength, she could easily snatch Bai Ruoyan and Shen Lingshuang away. However, she still chose to negotiate with Lin Chen, which showed her sincerity. However, Lin Chen also had his own position. Just as Lin Chen was about to refuse, Bai Ruoyan beat him to it. Senior, I can go with you, but please help me suppress the devil race in the 9 continents. Sister Ruoyan, Lin Chen's body trembled. Bai Ruoyan stared at him, her beautiful eyes moving gently. She said softly, Brother Lin Chen, I lied to you. My saint flame has already begun to go out of my control. If I don't leave with her, I'm afraid it will soon go out of control. At that time, it will definitely endanger the 9 continents and even you. No. I don't want you to leave. Lin Chen's eyes turned red. He grabbed Bai Ruoyan's white wrist tightly. No one knew where the woman in red would take Bai Ruoyan. What if she coveted her saint flame or body? Who could guarantee where the godly flame palace was? Bai Ruoyan was both touched and conflicted. The woman in red spoke. Little guy, I know you are worried. Don't worry. With me here, no one in the palace can threaten her safety. On the contrary, after your little girlfriend comes to the godly flame palace, she will become the top genius in the sacred boundary. Her potential is immeasurable. If you have any doubts about the godly flame palace's actions, you can come to the sacred boundary. Lin Chen clenched his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot as he struggled in pain. Could she guarantee Sister Ruoyan's safety with just one word? No, Lin Chen, couldn't trust her. He didn't want to go through the same experience of being possessed by the spirit of Saint Flame. At this moment, the spiritual state began to shake violently again. Violent winds howled and tsunamis rose to the sky. Lin Chen, we don't have any more time, the dean was sweating profusely. If Lin Chen continued, the seal of the demonic eye would be torn apart. Strength, I'm still not strong enough. Even if I don't agree, they can take Sister Ruoyan away with force. I'm still too weak. I can't even protect the people around me. It was the same with the demonic tribe, and it's the same now. Lin Chen made up his mind. After many ups and downs, he finally calmed down. Senior, I hope you will keep your promise. If anything happens to her, I will make the godly flame palace pay the price. Lin Chen's eyes were calm as if he was talking about something normal, but the woman in red was stunned. A moment later, the woman in red laughed. Ha 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 ha. Interesting, you are really interesting. If it weren't for the fact that the godly flame palace doesn't accept male disciples, I would really like to see how far you can go in the future. How many years had it been? There weren't many people in the sacred boundary who dared to threaten her like this. This kid was just a battle emperor realm warrior. He was like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of a tiger. Well, you are a brave little guy. It seems that our agreement is in place. The woman in red raised her jade-like hand, and streaks of red light and red flames that were tens of thousands of meters long instantly condensed and turned into 9 red light mystic seals. They were the size of a palm and emitted an aura that could suppress the universe forever. It seemed that there was a whole universe hidden in the red light mystic seals, which made people's hearts palpitate. The woman in red frowned slightly, seeming to have used up some of her energy. Go! She flicked her jade-like finger, and the 9 red light mystic seals shot across the sky like shooting stars and disappeared instantly. One of the seals shot into the ground where the heavenly spirit battle tower used to be. The trembling of the 9 prefectures suddenly stopped. Chapter 778. The 9 demon eyes released a murderous aura that could destroy everything. It was as deep as the sea, shaking the seal until it cracked. Just as the murderous aura was about to break out of the eyes, a red light seal descended from the sky. It shone with a brilliant divine aura, forming a new seal that suppressed the demon eyes. Boom! Boom! The demon eyes trembled like a mouse that had seen a cat. The murderous aura quickly retreated. After the red light seal flew into the sky, in less than 3 breaths, all the demon eyes in the 9 prefectures stopped rioting. Everything fell silent as if nothing had happened. This method was an eye-opener for everyone present. The dean was astonished and shocked. Lin Chen's heart was as heavy as a mountain. Suppressing the 9 demon eyes in the 9 prefectures by herself, this kind of strength was too terrifying. Those battle emperors who wanted to seek revenge on Lin Chen did not even dare to breathe loudly. I wonder who is stronger between her and the mysterious person from the demon race. Lin Chen squinted his eyes and clenched his fist. All right, the seal is complete. There won't be any abnormalities for at least 100 years. This is the limit of what I can do for you. Little girl, come here. The woman in red beckoned to Bai Ruoyan. She was reluctant to leave Lin Chen's side. Her soft lips were like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water as she lightly kissed Lin Chen's cheek before flying to the woman in red's side. Lin Chen frowned. Are you leaving immediately? Of course, I came here for her. However, this little girl is an unexpected gain. Moreover, the sacred boundary has a time order created by the gods. The flow of time is different from the mortal world. A year in the sacred boundary is equivalent to a month in the mortal world. Once these words were said, countless people were shocked. In the legendary sacred boundary, even the flow of time was completely different from that of the 9 prefectures. Little brother Lin Chen, if you are worried about me, you should come to the sacred boundary to pick me up earlier. Bai Ruoyan smiled sweetly. She did not want to see Lin Chen's sad expression. How could he not understand Sister Ruoyan's intention? He pretended to smile and said, Of course. I, the most handsome man in the 9 continents, will definitely make those geniuses from the sacred boundary feel ashamed. Then, Lin Chen looked at Xinling Shuang and said with a smile, Little disciple, you also have to work hard on your cultivation. Xinling Shuang pouted. She felt wronged and unhappy. You've always been concerned about your sister Ruoyan, but you've never cared about me. Where's my opinion? I have a fake master? By the way, Ling Shuang, this is the mental cultivation method I left for you. Without saying a word, Lin Chen handed his jade slip of the 9 tribulations of creation to Xinling Shuang. He had already sincerely decided to accept this girl as his disciple, so he naturally wouldn't keep it for himself. He had engraved the 9 tribulations of creation after the event. The mental cultivation method was a top purple rank, and because of its uniqueness, it could be improved. He did not want anyone else to become Xinling Shuang's master. This female disciple of the martial sage bloodline, Lin Chen, must have her. In the end, Xinling Shuang was still a little girl. Lin Chen's coaxing and laughter immediately amused her. After some explanation, Lin Chen also learned that among the spoils of war from killing the false god, there was a space transmission stone that could lead to the sacred boundary. When the woman in red was about to leave with the two girls, she smiled meaningfully at Lin Chen. Lin Chen, kid, although I can guarantee their safety, there are countless top geniuses in the sacred boundary. If you don't hurry up and become stronger, quickly come to my divine flame palace to take Bai Ruoyan away. Maybe one day she will be proposed to by a top sage. If the elders of my divine flame palace agree, she might become the woman of another genius. Lin Chen was stunned and cursed. King tricked me. Ha ha ha, Lin Chen, kid, I look forward to your performance in the sacred boundary. After the woman in red laughed, she instantly stepped into the air with the two girls and disappeared, leaving behind Lin Chen, whose mouth was twitching violently. Damn it, whoever dares to touch my sister Ruoyan, I'll smash them all. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit and anger. Coincidentally, Lin Chen, who was in an extremely bad mood, held the 5 dragons' imperial spear in his hand and suddenly shouted at all the invading war emperors. Come on. A bunch of old bastards, I'm very unhappy now. Hurry up and get some idiots to come out and let me beat them up. The war emperor's eyelids twitched wildly. You're crazy. The dean of the Heavenly Song Academy is still there, and a sage is guarding the scene. Who the hell wants to fight with you? In the end, all the invading war emperors fled, and the high-level experts of the Fake God Alliance were controlled. The hundreds of thousands of years of history of the Fake God Alliance finally came to an end. Lin Chen also immediately ordered the Alliance to build the 100 Sages' Ancestral Hall, so that the world would forever remember the achievements of the 100 Sages of the ancient times, and not his, Lin Chen's, achievements. Lin Chen's magnanimity and plan made the inheritors of the Saint Tablet extremely touched. Lin Chen's actions were completely to prove the names of the 100 saints and sages of the ancient era, but he didn't care at all that he would be labeled as an eternal sinner. No one was unconvinced by such an open-minded and broad state of mind. However, Lin Chen, who had just finished the battle, fainted immediately after half a day of jumping. Fortunately, the dean was present. After checking, he only found that Lin Chen's mind was in a state of extreme tiredness and he needed to rest for a period of time. Since Lin Chen sneaked into the firmament tower to take back the saint bloodline energy for the dean, he had not had a real rest. Before the arrival of the fake gods, he had been trying his best to become stronger and gain more attribute points. The continuous high-intensity battles with the 6 fake gods had pushed his mental strength to the limit. After Bai Ruoyan's departure, he could not hold on any longer. During this time, no one disturbed Lin Chen. The spiritual state operated according to the dean's arrangement, mourning the deceased, recuperating, and dealing with the fake god alliance. The dean extracted the fate wheels of the reclusive old monsters and the few war emperors who were lucky enough to survive and made them into a special jade slip. This jade slip was connected to the fate wheels or natal palaces of the people who had surrendered to the fake god. Half of their lives would be in the hands of the spiritual state alliance forever. If they were crushed, their cultivation strength would drop by 90%, which was more terrible than death. In addition, they had to listen to the alliance for 1,000 years before they could regain their freedom. They had to help the forces of the spiritual state and the heavenly state to fight against the fake gods and rebuild their families. 3 days after the battle, the firmament tower of the godly land released a message. Hang the head of the fake gods and restore the history of the 100 saints. Lin Chen was the savior of the 9 states. The Tower Master took action himself. Since the woman in red suppressed the 9 demon eyes, he finally had the time to clean up the 9 states. His prestige was unrivaled in the 9 state. He testified for Lin Chen and led people to uncover the bad deeds of the fake gods in the 9 states, making the world aware of it. Some of the true gods' followers committed suicide, some accepted history, and some waited for a chance to take revenge, but they were all uprooted. Lin Chen's name was famous in the 9 state. Some people called him a sinner, some worshipped him as the savior of the 100 saints, and some people thought that history was divided into two parts, which were different from each other. All of these were the most legendary and brilliant strokes in the history of the 9 regions. The head of the fake gods that hung high in the firmament tower symbolized the arrival of a new era. As for whether Lin Chen was a sinner or a savior, it was up to the future generations to judge. In short, the 9 states had a new look under the joint management of the Alliance and the Tower Master. This time, Lin Chen was in a coma for a whole month. When he woke up, he would stir up another storm. Chapter 779. 1 month after the Great Battle, in a room. Yang Qing'er was wearing a green palace dress, looking like an elegant butterfly as she sat beside Lin Chen's bed. "It's been a month, and you're still not awake." According to what that senior said, a year has passed in the sacred boundary. Yang Qing'er's beautiful eyes glowed as she stared at Lin Chen and mumbled to herself. Suddenly, Lin Chen on the bed reacted. He frowned and looked like he was struggling. He even started to mumble to himself. "No, don't leave me. You're awake?" Yang Qing'er hurried over to check on him. Lin Chen was sweating profusely as if he was having a nightmare. He subconsciously hugged Yang Qing'er, who went over to check on him. The beauty moaned, but Lin Chen was still yelling in his nightmare. "Don't bring me a banana covered in cream." Yang Qing'er was speechless. What kind of dream is this guy having? I'm fine? After the nightmare, Lin Chen woke up and realized that he was hugging Yang Qing'er. The atmosphere was charming and awkward. Cough, cough, cough. That feels good. Lin Chen didn't know if there was something wrong with his brain. The words that came out of his mouth made Yang Qing'er blush in embarrassment. No matter what, it's good that you're awake. The dean said that he will wait for you in the Qing Palace. Yang Qing'er's face was red as she ran out of the room like a frightened rabbit. Lin Chen touched his nose. There was still the lingering fragrance of the beauty beside the bed. She also took care of his basin and towel. Even his clothes were changed into a brand new white robe. It was hard to accept the kindness of a beauty. "Hey, my spirit has reached the grand completion stage of the reaching heaven state." Lin Chen found a pleasant surprise. He didn't expect his spirit to break through the limit after passing out. Lin Chen didn't move immediately. Instead, he opened the system. Last time, he was in a hurry outside the starry sky, and his clone was cleaning up the battlefield in the spiritual state. He didn't know how many non-growth attribute light balls he had collected. Heavenly Tao Possession System version 5. 0 host. Lin Chen cultivation level. Early stage 8th level War Emperor Realm. Intermediate Battle Chi Essence. 35 billion points. Maximum strength. 9 million dragon power, talent boost. 9,500,000, intermediate blood chi, 26. 5 billion points. Intermediate spiritual power. 241 million points. In the great success phase of the heavenly arrival state, intermediate cultivation method soul essence. 5 billion points. Intermediate rune energy. 1 billion points. Heaven's path points. 4 billion. Talent points. 2 billion. Intermediate elemental energy. Fire 8. 21 million points. Earth 7. 9 million points. Wood 7. 33 million points. Metal 8. 2 million points. Water 7. 3 million points. Thunder 7. 5 million points. Wind 7. 99 million points. Light 5. 2 million points. Darkness 5. 8 million points. Cultivation method status column, open. Bloodline status column, open. Passive talent column, open/not. Ultimate skills column, open/not. Active talent. Blue rank, Stealing Omen. Blue rank, Fatal Bloodlust. Purple rank, Superdimensional Teleportation. Purple rank, Ultimate Moment. Purple rank, Ultimate Return. Purple rank, Sovereign's Descent. Quasi-orange rank, Absolute Life and Death. Orange rank, Instant Shadow Fragment, 1/2. Characteristic rune column, open/not. talent combination skill. Fatal bloodlust, super-dimensional teleportation, sovereign's descent, absolute life and death. Blank attribute. 350,000 points, can be converted to any attribute at will. 3. 5 billion cultivation method soul essences. There were also more than 1 billion talent points and 1 billion intermediate rune energy. The attribute points dropped by the false god were indeed heaven-defying. If it weren't for the side effects of the God Slayer, the value would be even higher. There were too many spoils of war this time, so Lin Chen had to check them one by one. First, there was a scroll of dark energy seal, which was the spoils of war from the false god. Special secret manual, innate shadow technique. It can hide in the dark void and hide one's aura. Even a saint wouldn't be able to detect one's aura when one's cultivation is high. Tyrant Mark Sacred Sword. It's a pity that it's severely damaged and can't be used for the time being. Half-orange sword skill, Sword Fury Sky. It's a pity that one needs to be at least a First Tribulation Combat Emperor to be qualified to cultivate it. These 2 red blood crystals are very strange. They can't be refined or absorbed, so I can only keep them for now. It seems to be related to the dragon race? This red satin was also obtained from the false god. I have 2 pieces now, but I don't know how to use them. Other than the innate shadow technique that Lin Chen could cultivate, the other spoils of war couldn't be touched. Only the last piece of Tianyin odd crystal fragment was left. This odd crystal has a evil energy. I might not be able to refine it with my strength. Secondly, in my 9 tribulations creation cultivation method, the 9 tribulations combat body doesn't belong to the battle chi. If I forcibly refine it, there might be a problem. Lin Chen frowned. He was really envious of the energy of this odd crystal. But this was an odd crystal with as its main attribute and water as its secondary attribute. The consequences of forcibly refining it were unknown. But I can try the decomposition function. Lin Chen activated the decomposition function and decomposed the odd crystal fragment. Consumed 28. 5 million heaven path points to decompose low-grade odd crystal fragment. Obtained special attribute values. Evil energy 5 million points, intermediate water energy 35 million points. Condensed attribute values were injected into Lin Chen's body. His water calamity battle body crazily surged with endless power, as if it was about to break through with irresistible force. Damn! 35 million intermediate water energy points. Lin Chen was almost scared to death. The average value of my 9 elements is only 7 million. Oh my god, the water calamity combat body's power has skyrocketed several times. It's much stronger than the other calamity combat bodies. The power of the odd crystal once again amazed Lin Chen. The evil energy is the special attribute value of the blue rank sure kill skill, Tianyin Ice Corrosion. Damn! After counting the spoils of war, Lin Chen began to count the gains from the attribute treasure chest. Purple rank passive talent, Assault. If the host launches a sneak attack, the attack will be increased by 100%, 300%. If the host attacks from behind, the attack will be increased by 50%. Note: this talent determines whether there is a sneak attack effect. It depends on whether the sneak attack target has discovered the host or the host's attack. It can be activated when one condition is met. Bloodline ability, Myriad Devouring Art. Originated from the power of the immemorial Kuan Pung. It can devour everything and turn it into its own power. It can consume the technique essence to inherit. Low-grade spirit plant seed, clear jade tree seed. It can absorb the heaven and earth chi to cultivate spirit plants. There were also 10 golden saint origin coins. Lin Chen didn't know what this thing and the clear jade tree seed were for. But the gains this time were super bountiful. Assault can be combined with my heavenly invisibility rune. It will definitely play a role at the critical moment. If the innate shadow art I obtained is combined with this rune, it will be like adding wings to a tiger. The concealment secret manual combined with the assault talent was a perfect combination. System: I want to learn the myriad devouring art and the innate shadow art, consuming 190 million mid-grade technique essence points. Starting to learn a specific technique and bloodline ability. Endless inheritance memories flooded into his mind. Lin Chen easily controlled them with his mind power at the great accomplishment stage of the heaven ascension state. He quickly integrated and connected them. In the past, even if Lin Chen had obtained these techniques, it would have been difficult for him to cultivate them. Just the massive number of technique essence points alone was enough to stop him from progressing further. Even after robbing all of Jiuzhou, Lin Chen had only obtained slightly more than 100 million mid-grade technique essence points. Now he had 3.5 billion points. This was all thanks to the fake god. The more dangerous the battle, the greater the opportunity for Lin Chen. Chapter 780. In less than 2 days, Lin Chen perfectly learned the 10,000 devouring bloodline ability and the innate shadow spell. In fact, Lin Chen could only learn this bloodline ability because he possessed the powerful double dragon bloodline. This bloodline ability was engraved in the genes of the bloodline, and it was not something an ordinary human could learn. If I can obtain a top-notch devouring bloodline attribute in the future, I might be able to unleash the 10,000 devouring to the extreme. Lin Chen silently savored this sacred art in his heart. Thereafter, he released the 2 headless bodies. The headless bodies sparkled with holy light. Even though they were sealed, there was still a holy light shining from the treasures. These were the 2 remaining fake god bodies. Lin Chen summoned the Dragon Emperor, activated the bloodline, and activated the 10,000 devouring. Roar. The dragon head breathed out and spun into a pitch-black hole. The Dragon Emperor opened his mouth and swallowed the bodies of the 2 fake deities into the hole. Kaboom! Shockwaves surged out of the Dragon Emperor's body, and Lin Chen allowed the Dragon Emperor to activate the 10,000 devouring ability. That remnant pressure that belonged to the Saint Realm was finally eliminated by the 10,000 devouring. Under normal circumstances, this remnant Saint aura was enough to explode any level 7 ferocious beast. Success. This ability can devour any energy regardless of rank. It really works. Even though the 2 fake god bodies had their holy bloodline energy shattered, they were still great nourishment for the Dragon Emperor. Lin Chen was very satisfied after absorbing the Dragon Emperor into his body. Once he perfectly refined these 2 bodies, the Dragon Emperor would definitely reach a higher level, and he would have an additional cultivation path. In the Qing Palace, 1 person was kneeling, and 1 person was standing. The one kneeling was the fake god Mo Tianji. When the woman in red from the Godly Flame Palace arrived at the spiritual state, he was thrown into the academy. He was only discovered by the dean when he was cleaning up the battlefield. The shock in his heart was no less than when he sealed the 9 demon eyes. Mo Tianji's cultivation was crippled, and his broken saintly body was sealed. The dean kept him here, waiting for Lin Chen to wake up and deal with him. Don't kill me. I know many of the sacred boundaries' secret treasures and saint treasures. I can take you there and help you recover your saint body. How about it? I'm also a saint-level fortune teller, so I can help you break through to the peak of your cultivation. Mo Tianji used a pleading tone to bewitch the dean. The hidden resentment in his eyes did not escape the dean's notice. He knew that if he allowed Lin Chen to deal with him, he would definitely die. After exchanging blows with this young man, he was fully aware of the strength of this young man's temperament and willpower. The corner of the dean's mouth curled up into a sneer. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. Who is it? How dare you trespass into my Heavenly Song Academy? The dean's gaze fell on the corner beside the entrance of the Qing Palace Hall. He was surprised and suspicious. Ha ha ha, Dean, it's me. A dark shadow twisted in the darkness. Lin Chen slowly walked out. The president was shocked. This little guy had another fortuitous encounter? Even he could not see his exact whereabouts and aura. He did not even know when he entered the hall. He could only vaguely sense a trace of his aura. Lin Chen's mouth curled up. He had purposely released a trace of his aura for the dean to discover him. The innate shadow secret art is indeed amazing. Even the dean did not discover me. It's just that the speed at which it consumes the dark element battle chi is too terrifying. With my cultivation, I can only maintain it for half an hour. This guy is not dead? As Lin Chen was calculating in his mind, he saw Mo Tianji and immediately glared at him. When Mo Tianji saw Lin Chen, his heart skipped a beat. Dean, what's the situation? The dean shook his head and laughed. He briefly explained Mo Tianji's situation. Good boy, you almost got away. Lin Chen was alarmed. If Mo Tianji got away, there would be no end of trouble for the 9 prefectures. Even if he was on the verge of death, Lin Chen did not doubt the threat of a saint-level fortune-teller. He was even more terrifying than a saint-level fortune-teller. If he did not predict the future, the 6 fake gods would not know that the boundary-suppressing sacred steels of the spirit state were the least. If he did not observe the weakest areas of the 3 boundary-suppressing sacred steels, they would not have been able to break through the defense line of the spirit state so quickly. This showed the threat of a saint-level fortune-teller. Lin Chen, don't kill me. We still have room for discussion. Mo Tianji hurriedly begged for mercy. Lin Chen went up and kicked him in the face. Discussion your head. F***ck. Starting a war, allying with the demon tribe to frame the 9 prefectures' sages, deceiving the world and covering up history. You even created a fake god family to play with people's lives. It won't be enough even if I kill you 10,000 times. Lin Chen sealed most of his dragon power and violently beat Mo Tianji up. He beat Mo Tianji into a pig's head and made him cry out in pain. Then, he grabbed Mo Tianji and left the hall. The dean shook his head and laughed. Countless students and instructors gathered at the foot of the Cloud Mountain. The experts who died in the war were buried here. Some were the family heads of the ancient families, some were the elders and instructors of the academy, and some were young students. Their last wishes before they died in the war were surprisingly the same. If they could win the war, they wanted to be buried together with everyone who died in the war. A sea of flowers swayed, and the Cloud Mountain was covered with white chrysanthemums, forget-me-nots, and apricots. Countless people came here to pray and mourn for these warriors. Suddenly, the quiet Cloud Mountain was shrouded in a commotion. Everyone looked over and their expressions changed. It was Lin Chen. He dragged a blood-soaked figure with a terrified expression. Along the way, countless people saw that person's face and dragged him up to the peak of the Cloud Mountain. Standing on the peak of the Cloud Mountain, Lin Chen faced everyone and said loudly, "Everyone, this is one of the 6 fake gods who harmed the 9 prefectures. Today, I will use his blood to pay tribute to our fallen comrades." Lin Chen's words caused a huge commotion. This person was one of the famous fake gods? No, don't. Lin Chen, doing this won't do you any good. I still have many treasures in the sacred boundary. I can give them to you and help you break through to the saint realm or even higher. If you kill me like this, it won't do you any good. Mo Tianji still didn't give up, but he was really anxious this time. He had lived for millions of years, but he couldn't figure out what Lin Chen was thinking. Why did he have to kill him? There were no eternal enemies in this world, only eternal benefits. Could it be that the value and benefits of a saint realm fortune-teller wasn't enough to exchange for his life? He didn't understand. He really didn't understand. This time, everyone stared at Lin Chen on the peak of the Cloud Mountain. He held the Dragon Radiant saber in his hand and his gaze was cold. In this world, there are things more important than benefits and power. Unfortunately, you won't understand because you are no longer human. Lin Chen looked at the cloud mountain and the mountains and rivers. He seemed to be talking to himself, but at the same time, he seemed to be talking to someone. Everyone, have a safe journey. I, Lin Chen, am not a savior. The 9 prefectures are lucky to have heroes like you. Thank you for protecting this continent. After he finished speaking, Lin Chen took a deep breath and raised his saber. He gathered his dragon power. Mo Tianji's pupils shrank. He regretted it. Why did he attack the 9 prefectures? Why did he provoke this guy? With his strength as a Saint Realm fortune-teller, it should have been easy for him to calculate this fate. Unfortunately, Mo Tianji didn't know before he died that Lin Chen didn't belong to this world or this universe. His fate was empty. Apart from himself, no one could calculate his fate. Rumble. Chi. Terrifying waves of air surged as Lin Chen slashed down with his saber. Clang. The dragon radiance saber chopped off Mo Tianji's head. A crack appeared on the blade and blood spilled on the peak of the cloud mountain. Everyone who witnessed this scene was in awe. Lin Chen's eyes were teary as he let out a deep breath. Elder Yuan, Elder Han Shuzi, have a safe journey. Lin Chen hung Mo Tianji's corpse and head high on the peak of the cloud mountain. He wanted to remember this history and remind the world not to forget this war. Chapter 781. The news of killing Mo Tianji spread throughout the 9 prefectures in just one day. Lin Chen said his final goodbyes to everyone in the academy. Little guy, are you sure you want to go to the sacred boundaries so soon? The dean asked worriedly. He knew the dangers of the sacred boundary better than anyone in the 9 prefectures. It was a world where the martial arts civilization was at its peak. The 9 prefectures was just a drop in the ocean compared to it. In the dean's opinion, Lin Chen's talent was extraordinary. He could cultivate in the 9 prefectures for a while more before going up. Time doesn't wait for me. Everyone in Class 66 has been up there for more than 2 months. They have been in the sacred boundary for more than 2 years. I have to hurry up. Lin Chen smiled. Then, he said seriously, moreover, just as you said, the danger of the 9 prefectures is not over yet. That's right. The survival of the 9 prefectures was still in danger. The woman from the Divine Flame Palace had only sealed the 9 demon eyes for 100 years. After 100 years, the demons in the demon's den could still rush out of the 9 prefectures. The only way to permanently seal the demon eyes was to use the special weapon in the sacred boundary's holy prison, the 9 Sha nails. Only by going to the holy prison and inserting the 9 Sha nails into the demon eyes could this problem be solved forever. Secondly, Lin Chen also needed to go to the holy prison to find the dean's friend, Ying Tianya, for the other incomplete part of the Tai Heaven concealing technique. Only he knew the whereabouts of the other incomplete parts of the technique. In order to become stronger, Lin Chen was determined to get the Tai Heaven concealing technique. Whether it was for the survival of the 9 prefectures or to become stronger in the future, Lin Chen had to go to the sacred boundary's holy prison. Above his head, there was still a mysterious person from the Devil Cultivator. He was at least as strong as the woman from the Divine Flame Palace. Moreover, Lin Chen was worried about Bai Ruoyan, Ling Yueqi, and the others. He couldn't wait any longer. Knowing that Lin Chen was leaving, everyone couldn't help but feel sad. Especially Ling Ruxue, Mu Qianxiu, Nangong Yuyan, and other women who admired Lin Chen. Their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. Lin Chen took out a bronze mirror and said solemnly when he saw that the atmosphere in the hall had become somewhat tense. Oh no, things might be a little serious. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that something big was going to happen before he left? What's wrong, little guy? Shen Lianyun hurriedly asked. Lin Sun rubbed his chin and said seriously while looking at himself in the mirror. I think I've become more handsome. Oh no, with my handsomeness, if I go to the sacred boundary, how many women will suffer? Everyone nearly fainted. Yang Qing'er and the other beauties couldn't help but burst into laughter. Everyone, your handsome guy will definitely come back. Lin Chun crushed the sacred boundary space transmission stone that he had obtained from the false deity. A space radiance appeared above his head, and Lin Chen was sucked into it. Haha, let's wait quietly for the return of the legend of the 9 states. The dean sat in the hall and chuckled. Because of Lin Chen's outstanding performance in the battle with the false deity, he could live for at least another 500 years. Moreover, the Tower Master of the Firmament Pagoda would take care of the spiritual state, and the 9 states would be safe. The void passage was like a winding white dragon. Lin Chen was pulled by a mysterious force of space and swept out of the starry sky. In the space passage, the starry sky outside was clearly visible. There were flowing fire, falling stars, splitting wind, and some huge planets and continental plates. The vast starry sky was dazzling, and Lin Chen couldn't take it all in. These beautiful sceneries seemed to be right in front of him, but in fact, they were extremely far away. What Lin Chen saw might be the light they emitted millions of years ago. I'm afraid it will take a while to arrive. Lin Chen wasn't surprised. The sacred boundary was extremely far away from the continents of the 9 states and other mortal world. He couldn't reach it in a short time. Finally, I can update the system. He clicked on the system and saw the list on the screen. Estimated functions of version 6.0. Expansion of cultivation technique learning function can be used by others, etc. Added the most powerful strengthening function in history. Cultivation technique strengthening, combat weapon strengthening, mental cultivation technique strengthening. The highest level of strengthening can be plus 13. Added consumable attribute points. Strengthening points which can be used to strengthen functions. System requirements for version 6.0. 200 million intermediate cultivation technique essence, 50 million heavenly Tao points, 50 million talent points. Host, are you sure you want to update? Although Lin Chen didn't dare to say that he didn't care about these attribute points, he could afford them. Lin Chen wasn't arrogant. He knew that his 1 billion rune energy and talent points were his life-saving trump cards in the sacred boundary. Without the 2 orange grade talents, it would be extremely difficult for him to even face a 5 tribulation battle emperor. Yes, Lin Chen ordered. The system shut down and a progress bar popped up. 0. 1%. 0. 2%. During the system update, Lin Chen took out a green seed. What exactly is this spiritual plant of fate? The green seed was called the clear jade tree seed. Lin Chen obtained it from a 5-light supreme treasure chest after killing a false god. The item from a treasure chest of this level was definitely extraordinary. Lin Chen tried watering it with spiritual water, piling up spiritual crystals, and burning spiritual energy, but there was no significant effect. What the hell is this thing? Lin Chen felt a headache coming on. He felt like he had obtained a treasure but didn't know what to do with it. He simply ran his mental cultivation technique and transferred a wisp of wood tribulation and water tribulation battle chi. Suddenly, the green seed shone brightly. There's a reaction? Lin Chen was shocked. This seed was absorbing his 9 tribulations battle chi. Lin Chen increased his strength and didn't feel tired at all. Time ticked by. During the time when the space passage moved to the sacred boundary, Lin Chen had been instilling his 9 tribulations battle chi into the clear jade tree seed. The speed at which the clear jade tree seed absorbed battle chi increased as it grew. During this time, Lin Chen even took a few pills because his battle chi was exhausted. In the end, he even used ultimate restoration 3 times. Finally, on the 15th day, the clear jade tree seed sprouted and gave birth to a green sprout. Damn it, it's only just sprouted after absorbing so much of my battle chi. If it grows into a tree, it'll take ages. Lin Chen's mouth twitched violently. Just as he was thinking about whether to continue feeding this prodigal thing, a dazzling light shone in front of him. When he turned to look, Lin Chen was stunned. It was an incomparably vast galaxy. No, to be precise, it was a little like a rotating astrolabe. There were countless spatial planes, planets, and continents in the astrolabe. With his purple-gold eyes, Lin Chen could see some spatial latitude and longitude that connected the infinite planes together. At the center of the latitude and longitude was a vast star domain. That's the sacred boundary. Lin Chen was shocked. And in the star domain, the limit of what Lin Chen could see with his cultivation was the dark ancient tower with a murderous aura. It seemed to go straight to the 9 heavens like something from the desolate ancient civilization. Words couldn't describe its magnificence. At the top of the ancient tower, there were 2 large and fierce words engraved on it. Holy Prison. There seemed to be a few faint shadows of palaces standing on top of the ancient tower. Lin Chen could also see some shooting stars falling into the astrolabe from time to time. Those were living beings like him who had used the space transmission stone to go to the sacred boundary. Almost at the same time when he saw the sacred boundary, a screen popped up in his mind. Heavenly Path Possessor System version 6.0 has been successfully updated. The system has been opened. New functions are now online. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.